Wake up, 49ers fans. Guess what? You're in the NFC Championship game. It was a little bit of a heart attack to get there, but Larry, they got there. How are you, pal? Good morning. Everyone was all stressed out for about 4 solid hours, but you also got to sleep the sleep of victory, which is the best way to go to bed after a stressful football game. My God.
Oh, my God. I can't do this anymore. That was just unfreaking believable. And, I asked Dre Greenlaw in the post-game presser, I'm like, what was going through your mind, man? What was going through your mind? Were you thinking maybe I ought to get down there? And he's, he had a funny answer and everybody laughed. But, man, my 14-year-old said, Dad, I was at home. I was screaming, get down, get down. I was hoping one of his own teammates would just tackle him.
What was his answer? What was the funny answer? He's just saying, I'm just trying to make a play.
Yeah, he's just like, he's like, Fred told me, I'll play it for you because it's so great. I only have the audio because I haven't put it in the video yet. But here you go. Here's the question.
Trey, what was going through your mind after the second pick? And did you hear people yelling, get down, get down?
Oh, yeah, I heard him. But Fred told me I was supposed to get a pick six. So, it was kind of his fault. He told me, he was like, man, you get a pick six. So I was trying to get one every time I got the ball. Nice. But yeah, I know I didn't go down.
It was Fred's fault. Fred's fault. It was
Fred's fault. Fred's fault.
Unbelievable.
I asked Kittle about it. Kittle's like, dude, he was like doing NBA crossovers. He was. Oh man, and Kyle was like, shaking his head. He's like, some of the guys that I wanted to, yell at were some of the guys who made great plays. But hey, look, I will stand on this, and you know it because you and I talked about it on many streams, and all the audience knows it as well. I emphasized not just this week, not just last week. I emphasized it in week 16, 17, 18. The 49ers aren't getting this done without Dre Greenlaw. You got to have Dre Greenlaw. He's a got-to-have-it player. Steve Wilkes told me this week, man, you got to protect Dre from Dre. So they sat him out in week 18. The best part of week 18 was media. Dre Greenlaw will not be playing today because of Achilles pain or whatever. He's battling some pain in the Achilles, but he said it in the postgame. He's like, there was no way he wasn't going to play. I talked to him at his locker Friday. He knew there was no way he was not going to play. This is a guy who doesn't need to practice. He just needs to play. And he was, Damon, if you go back and I watched that game on the condensed version on the NFL Plus when I got home last night, the only way to watch football, by the way, is just play after play. Everything's cut out. It's amazing. But he made so many plays in that fourth quarter and so many plays even in that final drive. He just was everywhere. And the guy has heart of gold. He's a lion out there. It's just amazing. To me, the biggest reason the 49ers won that game was Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I know we can talk about Lenore and Kittle and, JJ and CMC and Brock in the final drive. And there's lots of heroes, but man, Greenlaw and Warner were constants. And I know Aaron Jones had a big night, but those two linebackers, if the Niners are getting this thing done, Damon, it's going to be because Greenlaw and Warner lead them there.
Well, and it's going to be because when it's time to go and get yourself a big drive, you got a quarterback who did it on a night where he was struggling. Yeah. Can you win when everything is going right? The Niners have checked that box so often, no one's even impressed by it anymore. Can you win when anything is going wrong? It felt like the Niners hadn't checked that box not once all this year. They hadn't won a single game where they had been trailing in the second half, and they save this performance in the postseason to check a box that a lot of people said they needed to check along the way. And I'm wondering, Larry, if some crazy cockeyed universe, last night's game wasn't a really, really good thing for the Niners, for their confidence. It's a game where no one was absolutely on it. No one really played a great football game. There were a couple good individual performances, and we will talk about all of them here this morning. But they won with their B game. They won with their B- game. They won with their C+ game. I don't know. B- might even be generous. They got it done when it mattered most. And can the Niners win ugly is a question we've been asking ourselves, the audience, and the team itself all season long. Can they win ugly? Larry, they went home with the ugliest girl in the bar last night. They got it done. They won ugly. They won ugly, and it was a heart attack on a plate. There are so many things. Had just one thing happened, you're either in overtime or you're losing that game. There's a lot of second guessing of coaching decisions this morning. There's a lot of finger pointing on a whole bunch of things that might have gone wrong. Kyle has absolutely exposed himself for further criticism of coaching tight in big moments at the end of halves and at the end of games. I mean, Kyle has some tendencies that aren't great, but the Niners overcame them, and they've got a clean slate for whoever shows up next weekend. Nothing that happened Saturday night at Levi's Stadium does anything to affect the outcome of the next game. And the next game's the most important one of the entire year. You can just put this one behind you. The only thing that could affect the outcome is Deebo's status. And the good news out of Deebo early this morning is it doesn't seem like anything serious occurred.
Which then, of course, you got all these people going, he's soft. Why do you leave? It's like, oh, my God. Stop calling football players soft. A guy named Quantopoli sent a tweet late in the fourth quarter. And I know you got it because you're attached to this. He sent it to me. He sent it to you. He sent it to Dan Orlovsky and a few other people. He says, I guess we got our answers. 49er fans, Brock Purdy's not the answer. Niners need a quarterback. Wow. No. It's just like, we gotta just stop with this, guys. We got to stop. I mean, there's, I'm all about make a knee-jerk reaction, but, just because the guy struggled last night doesn't mean he's not the guy. To me, I think you're totally spot on. I think this game is going to help them. Good luck to whoever they get next, because the odds are they're not going to play that kind of a game next week. Brock may have some problems in wet conditions. It seems like he's kind of torn. Do I wear a glove? Do I not? The wet football bothers him. I think I might, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, have him, work with some wet footballs from time to time on game weeks where the rain's gonna be there. Why not? I mean, you mock up everything else. You're playing in Seattle. You've got gigantic speakers that you'll bring out and blast speakers really loud, trying to emulate, or not emulate, but copy the sound. What's that?
Simulate.
Thank you. It's early. Simulate that sound, that you're going to get in Seattle. Why wouldn't you try to simulate the weather? So I don't know. I think Kyle's a great coach. There's a little bit of stubbornness to him for sure. He gets the thing that drives me so crazy about him in the second quarter is they put so much money, Damon, into their defense. They obviously have so many of their resources tied up in their defense, but then they treat their defense like it's a major liability and not a strength. Lean into it. You have belief in your defense. Don't worry about giving somebody the ball with 30 seconds left. Just don't have Steve Wilkes calling all out blitz, and I think you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like you saw in Minnesota. I mean, he's so worried about, I watched it again, and he's clearly serving multiple masters in his mindset in that final drive before the half. They got the ball back with 4:09 left to go in the first half, and to only get a long field goal attempt from your rookie kicker, which you were trying to avoid altogether, leaning on him, it's just inexcusable. I mean, the drive was just totally inexcusable. They didn't handle the clock well. They wasted 45 seconds. 4:09 left. 1st and 10 from the 25. They run McCaffrey left for 1 yard. 2nd and 9, he goes to Jennings for 12 yards. Now it's 1st and 10 on the 38. He goes CMC and a halfback toss for 3 yards. It's 2nd and 7 on the 41. Purdy to CMC for 9 yards. It's 1st and 10 on the 49 or the plus 45. CMC runs 7 yards. 2nd and 3, CMC runs 4 yards. Then, you're already by that second down play, they were already at the 2-minute warning. They ran 1, 2, 3 plays in 2 minutes. You got to be able to speed it up a little bit in that situation and not be so worried about. I mean, they settled for a 48-yard Jake Moody field goal, and yet Niner fans, and I get it. You like Kyle Shanahan. I like Kyle Shanahan. I'm a big backer of Kyle Shanahan. Just because, it's like you love your kid doesn't mean your kid does everything right. You love your wife doesn't mean she does everything right. You love your head coach. You think he's great. Fine. Doesn't mean he did everything right. It wasn't right that they got the ball with 4:09 left and they settled for a 48-yard Jake Moody field goal, with no time. I mean, it's like they botched that. They wasted time. They blew their timeouts. You got to either hurry it up and get down there or give Jake a chip shot field goal. I mean, you had to score at least 3. And 49er Brian's like, Krug, come on, we won. I'm just saying this is a problem that supersedes this game. It's a problem that Shanahan has had. He wants everything. He wants to score right before the half and also leave his opponent 0 seconds on the clock. And it's just,
it is. You know what it is? It's
a hard out in radio. It's a hard out. When they say, hey, Damon, we need a hard out at 9:17:15. And you can't get out at 14 and you can't get out at 18. You know what I mean? It's like, it's near impossible.
It does feel like Kyle is in such a quest for perfection. He lets pretty good pass him by sometimes. And someone needs to tell him, like, Kyle, you don't get bonus points if you score when the clock hits 0. You don't get any extra for that. You do get you
had to have points there, man. It had to be 10-6 at half, and it was 7-6.
And the thing is, I don't understand why you're just letting that 40 seconds burn off the clock at midfield. You're inside the 15-yard line, and you're a throw away from a pretty relatively short, somewhat easy red zone score. You can start playing with the milliseconds, but you shouldn't start playing with the milliseconds when you're out at the 45, 48-yard line and you're just thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to cover half the field with 3 timeouts, no problem at all, with only 12 seconds left on the clock. Like, you don't have enough time to run the plays that you want to run, and that's what bothered me the most about it. Kyle is literally doing more to shrink his own options and his own playbook in the quest of not letting the best defense in football pretty much all year long have to defend a full football field
for 9 seconds.
Exactly. 18 seconds at the worst. So, you had
to have points there. I think he gets he's running the game, running the clock. He's the offensive coordinator. He's got a lot going on there. And I just think that, I don't want to insult anybody, but I just think that he may need a little bit of help from some other entity that says, okay, let's do it this way. And I don't know what the answer is.
It's not time at all to talk about off-season moves. You're in the NFC title game. We're not talking about the offseason, but there are 2 hires that I would like to see Kyle make this offseason. Hire whoever it takes to improve this special teams, which has been a blind spot in the Niners' entire run under Kyle Shanahan. Special teams can improve, full stop.
They've got a good special teams coach right now.
Right, but they don't play well on special teams. Special teams is constantly just don't screw it up. It's not seen as any opportunity to improve the game. Like Wishnowski does a hell of a job.
They used a 3rd-round pick on a kicker, a 4th-round pick on a punter, signed George Odom to big money. They're doing the kinds of things that you would typically say you ought to do, but I hear you. They've got, they had a major advantage on special teams on paper over Green Bay, who was like 32nd DVOA on special teams. But the Keyshawn Nixon thing was just, oh my God. That was a gut punch too.
And Larry, the other thing is like you're saying, the team needs a clock coach. A guy who's not even looking at the football game, just looking at the clock, considering timeouts left, and is a beautiful mind in terms of knowing exactly when to stop clocks and call timeouts. And
how about a hurry up
game management?
Does this team have a hurry up?
Yeah,
I mean, you would think that you would think they would have a hurry up. I asked Kyle 6 weeks ago. I said, Kyle, do you ever play around with the idea of tempo and maybe trying to speed it up? I mean, the Niners have the hardest eligibles to cover. You got a quarterback that's really, really smart and processes fast. You know, you are you're your own offensive coordinator, so there's no like debate on the headsets. You can get plays called in on time. And he's like, yeah, we did that a lot when I first got here. And I get, and then he's like, we don't do it as much now. And I'm not really sure why they don't, but I would, they won a bunch of games, Damon, by big margins this year. In those big margin games, why not take one series a game? I mean, I almost think it would be like advantageous to get to like have a reputation around the league as, hey, you know what? If you play the 49ers, one series a game, they're going to go hurry up on you, and you don't know when it's coming. And I think they would put tremendous pressure on their opponent. And I like the idea of tempo. And if you run some more tempo on a regular basis, then I think you could go hurry up in some of these end of halves, end of games, and have your guys feel like more united and more like it's like a regular kind of thing. But they don't I know they practice it, but they don't do it in games, and they look like they don't understand that they should go hurry up sometimes and right before the half.
What's odd about that is like Kyle is obsessed with finding weaknesses and mismatches. And when you got a weak player, when you got a soft target of opportunity on the field, why wouldn't you go hurry up to keep him on the field? Right? Why wouldn't you go hurry up to keep whatever advantage you think you have? This player on that player is where I can pick up a first down. Why wouldn't you continue to do that?
Especially when you look around the league, Damon, and everybody's got all these sub packages. I mean, you watched Dallas last week. They're trotting guys on, trotting guys off. If Jim Harbaugh comes back to the NFL, you saw the national championship game. He's got all kinds of different guys coming on and off the field. It's situational football and specialists and, different looks and 3 safety looks. And it's like you can negate a lot of that by, you get a defense, and don't let them substitute because you hurry it up. I mean, I just think playing with tempo, I saw what it did to the Niners when they played the Falcons in Atlanta when Arthur Smith went hurry up against the Niners, and it puts a little stress and pressure on your defense, and that's a good thing. So, you got this awesome offense. You're one of the big offensive gurus. Work in a hurry up, and then if you work in a hurry up, I think it will give you more confidence to play faster inside of the 2-minute warning going into the half. I don't know. It's all nitpicking at this point. I will say this. If you watch, that game was hell to watch. But guess what? It was super enjoyable in the condensed post version after your team won.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. It was awesome. Every negative play that last night we were like, oh my God, knowing that you won. Oh, it's all. And all I got to say is, you know what? I should have given more love in the post game last night to Deebo Samuel. That man is an absolute star in the making. He's got that. He was the one guy, Damon, who at his locker told me we are not losing this game. And he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid to say it. And then he went out there and played like, here it is, the best Jacob Thomas. Demo a dog. And it's probably D-A-W-G. I mean, Deebo Samuel is absolutely. If I could replicate that guy, if I could clone that guy and have 10 other guys on defense that all were made of what that guy's made of, I would do it. That guy is awesome.
He picked the right game to have the best game of his young career.
He's awesome, man.
Ambry Thomas picked the wrong game to maybe have the worst game of his career. That could have been the fatal flaw in last night's game. And Thomas had a rough night, man.
He's got to play with more poise and the ball in the air.
Yeah, no pretending. I mean, that's the thing. I think the thing that you and I do best is we don't pretend.
Right.
Okay, we don't pretend. Let's not pretend that anything in that game was optimal last night. It really wasn't. You can carve out room to compliment a few performances, but overall, that is among the least impressive football games the 49ers have played all season. Regular, postseason, doesn't matter. That was not a great afternoon, evening of 49ers football.
Until the final drive. And then Purdy came alive, man. Yeah. Purdy was great in the final drive. You got to give it to him. He completed 86. He had completed 53% going into the final drive. On the final drive, he stepped it up and completed 86%.
Well, it's known as 6 for 7 for 47 yards. On that decisive drive, Purdy was 6 for 7 for 47 yards. And then maybe among the biggest plays he made was the scramble to inside the 6-yard line, wherever he got when he ran the ball, and he tucked it and ran. And it was the right choice. It was a game where they found themselves without, I think, a key cog of the entire evening's offensive plan. And that's another, come on, Kyle, you got to have a left hand to go along with your right hand. And you got so many weapons. Just because Deebo is out of this game early doesn't mean half the playbook should just vanish. It also doesn't mean you should ask anyone to play like Deebo. And that handoff to begin the second half to Jauan Jennings is maybe the single most, what are you doing here, Kyle? Offensive snap of the entire season. That is somebody who is in his too cute bag. Do you understand that that's not Deebo Samuel? He should not be running the ball there. Jauan Jennings hasn't been asked to do that all season long. You're going to ask him to do it now in what had the markings of being the most important drive of the entire season after you just let down the end of the first half. You got to come out here at the beginning of the third. You got to do something. And they go 3 and out. That's the one time where I said to myself, they're going to lose this football game.
I know. I'll say this. I never felt like they were going to win this game from the beginning. It never felt good. It never felt good. And by the way, Jauan Jennings, he's a free agent this offseason. You wouldn't have won yesterday, fellas, without Jauan Jennings. 6 targets. He caught 5 balls for 61 yards. He blocked a guy into the Gatorade on the opposing sideline. Did you see that play?
Yes.
I mean, that's blindside stuff,
right.
Jauan Jennings is absolutely one of the toughest. You got to have toughness, man, and he is tough. That's a tough guy, man.
And as we said many times, that's a really good Packers team. That's a really good football team. I mean, the Niners absolutely left an awful lot of incompletes on their report cards. They forgot to dot I's and cross T's all night long. But the Packers
are coming, baby.
I'll tell you, the Packers have to be waking up this morning feeling like they let the opportunity of a lifetime slip through their hands. If Niner fans are elated with the thank God we survived that, Packers fans have to be saying, I can't believe we lost that game. I can't believe we lost that game. Now, what's really weird, you get into the box score and you'll find out that the 49ers did outperform the Packers in some statistical categories, and it didn't feel that way at all. The feeling of that game was the Packers were in control until the Niners were in victory formation, basically. And they lost control of a game that it felt like they were in control of. The nitpicking that can go on in Green Bay can go on for days and days and days. Where this entire game was won. And Larry, we're going to get to just our facts here. We got some other a new segment to work into the postseason show today on Wake Up. Oh yeah, Damon was working last night.
But wait, there's more.
This entire game feels like it turned at the end when Brock, game-winning drives will do that, right? Game-winning drives will make you think that's where the game was won. And sure, it was in some ways. But where the game was really won was by this defense deciding to just bend and not break on the first 3 red zone trips. Larry, 3 red zone trips by the Green Bay Packers, 6 points. That's where the Niners won this game. They won it with the red zone stops in the first quarter. That's where this game was won. And the fact that LaFleur went for it on 4th and 1, and I know, look, he might have got it. That might have been a bad spot. I thought he got it in real time, then I saw another angle, and I'm like, Packers got a little jobbed on that spot right there. I don't know. Had that been a field goal, a makeable field goal, the game's in overtime right there. Had Carlson not missed the other kick in the game, that game could be in overtime. And in overtime, anything can go wrong. So
we got over 2,000 people in the chat. How many of them last week were ripping the shit out of me when I was saying that Green Bay is good and that,
Why are you guys afraid? Why are you guys afraid of the
You're
Packers?
afraid. What are you, Craig? You're afraid. We're going to roll these guys by 4 touchdowns. We're going to. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, it's like, I get things wrong. I get things right like everybody else. But come on, man. Green Bay was good. Right. You don't go into now Dallas gagged, but you don't go into Dallas and hang 48 on their defense without having a good offense. I mean, Jordan Love is good, but he's young. And in the biggest moments at the end, with the place rocking and rolling, and the rain coming down, he made a couple mistakes, and Greenlaw was there to pick him off. But I mean, Green Bay has got a great young GM named Gutekunst, and LaFleur's a solid coach. It's a really well-run organization, and man, how they hit with Jordan Love. They hit with Dobbs. They hit with Reed. They hit with Melton. They hit with Musgrave. They hit with Watson. They hit with Kraft. They hit with Wicks. I mean, they need some more defense. They need a healthy, Jair Alexander. But Green Bay, to me, I'll say this, and I said this in camp. I said, man, it's going to be the Niners and the Eagles for the foreseeable future in the NFC. No. Because, one thing I always forget is how fast the NFL dial turns. And the careers are so much shorter and everything's so sped up, right, Damon? So it looks like it's Niners-Eagles. But in reality, the Niners and the Eagles are older teams. And there's these young bucks like Detroit and Green Bay and a couple of others that are coming up. And it goes by fast. So all I got to say is just, forget me. Take me out of the equation. I'm just saying Green Bay is coming as a young team. And this Detroit team that I think is coming to, we'll find out today, but I think Detroit's going to get it done in a big way today. They're coming too, Hutchinson and all these young Brian Branch and Penei Sewell and Laporta and Amon-Ra. I mean, they're coming. Jahmyr Gibbs. They're coming.
And a grown-up adult version of Jared Goff, who's a lot better than the Jared Goff we remember from Los Angeles. And it's come together. And
they're coming. These young teams are coming.
Yeah, they've taken on their identity of their head coach, who we're both fans of. There's no doubt about that.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
And that is the way they go out and play. Like I remember when everyone was laughing at that. I mean, I remember the first time I heard it, I told Lucas immediately, I'm like, cut that, Lucas. That is incredible. We're going to play that soundbite all season long. It's the one soundbite that I used to play for Ray Ratto that Ray liked. I mean, and
seriously, when I would fill in for you at 95.7, I would say, hey, they're like, do you want any sound? I'd be like, Damon's got a soundboard. Can I just get the Dan Campbell with the one ass cheek line?
These nuts.
And that's a guy who's intense as hell, who also knows how to keep a team loose. And that is how the Lions play. The Lions are out there like they don't care how many ass cheeks or toes.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
And all they're trying to do is go out there and beat your ass. That's what they do.
They're ridiculous though. Between Kirby Joseph and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, those guys remind me of Whitner and Goldson.
Well, and Gardner-Johnson's been a little bit banged up. And if for some reason
one of my favorite players in the whole league.
If for some reason the Lions are not here next weekend, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I bet you it's one of those games where he didn't go through. He couldn't play the whole thing. I mean, he's a game tilting player. He really is. But how about this? On Monday at 8 a.m. West Coast time, Larry and I are going to be right back here less than 24 hours from right now with a wake up, because this Sunday special edition of Wake Up is to look back at what happened last night and try to figure out how the Niners survived that. Monday's Wake Up will be a full preview of the NFC Championship game, which we can't do right now because we still don't even know who's coming. And as you can tell from last night, anything can happen in a football game. Playing at home with pressure to win was almost enough to smother the Niners. If that can happen, it can happen to the Lions as well. So we'll see, right? I'm
rooting hard for Tampa.
Yes, root hard for Tampa without a doubt. It is wonderful to have you here. I've got more people in my room right now, Larry, on my side of this broadcast than I've had, I think, for any other Wake Up. So that is great. You said you got a robust audience on your channel. We put them together. Voltron has been formed, and it's wonderful to have you. Please hit subscribe. Please hit like. Memberships indeed available. Both of our channels, the support that you've given Larry right from the jump that Larry's given me, that so much of Larry's audience has given me, it's meant an awful lot. And we've grown by leaps and bounds this year. And this show will go on after football season. There is something about Wake Up that people are responding to that means we're going to keep doing this throughout the entire year. So thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, all those things. Larry, are you ready for just the facts?
I'm ready. You're ready. And over 2,000 people in the room are ready as well.
By the way, Roland does say if they do hire a clock coach, they should hire a guy who just has a huge Flava Flav clock. And that's how you can identify the clock coach, because he's wearing a big clock.
What about Big Dom? Maybe Big Dom? Try to take him away from Philly. Hey, Big Dom, we got a sideline duty for you.
You want to be out there. You want to be part of the team so bad.
Want to be part of it.
Poor Big Dom. I wonder if Big Dom is Philadelphia's new Steve Bartman. Does he have to leave?
No, I'm sure he's probably embraced. He's probably eating Philly cheesesteaks for free.
Probably. And I hear he's a great guy, so that's good. All right, let me give this a nice starting point for Kevin to have a nice edit. Larry, are you ready for just the facts?
I am ready.
San Francisco has reached the conference championship game for the 17th time since 1980, which is the most in the NFL during that span. That ain't bad. Let's just start right there. There is no team that appears in its conference championship game more in our modern football lifetimes than your San Francisco 49ers. Now, as a fan base, as an assembled media, as YouTube content creators, we are hard on these boys. We are hard on them. And they are more often than not on the precipice of doing something special, certainly more often than not measured against their own competition in the NFL. So, tip of the cap. 17th conference championship game since 1980. The 49ers are in the title game for the third consecutive season and for the fourth time in franchise history, and for the first time since the peak of the Harbaugh years from 2011 to 2013. They've won 5 consecutive postseason games now against the Green Bay Packers, and the win Saturday night at Levi's is the 37th playoff victory in 49ers franchise history, which ties them with the Packers and the Patriots for most playoff wins in NFL history. So, there's a reason why the 49ers are one of the crown jewels of the NFL's crown. This is an incredible franchise. And again, the stakes to win it all this year are massive, but let's appreciate where they are and how they got here on a night after maybe they shouldn't even be hosting the NFC title game. They're doing it. So hats off. Hats off. Larry is somebody who grew up being bounced on his daddy's knee at Candlestick. This has got to mean an awful lot to you, and you appreciate the steps along the way to greatness. Here they are, the vital step. You can't be great without this step, and they're in this step once again.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see them back on top. I mean, they were on top in the 80s. They were on top in the 90s. Man, they fell off there in 2000s. The 2000s were just a nightmare. Dennis Erickson, and all these. I mean, it was just a nightmare.
Mike Nolan,
Mike Nolan, the smell in the building. Well, I love the smell in the building. Really, to me, it stunk. Obviously they had the Harbaugh tease years, and I say tease because they got close but no cigar. And then back to Tom Sula, Chip Kelly. I remember I was sitting there in the press box with John Lund during late in the Chip Kelly singular season, going, "What happened? We were just on top, and now we've allowed 700-yard rushers in a row. Our head coach talks a million miles an hour." It's just like, he's supposed to be innovative. What's innovative about Chip Kelly? He calls bad plays at a rapid pace. I mean, it was like, seriously. I mean, it was like, there's a guy who played fast and played terrible. I mean, it was like nobody inspired less confidence in Chip Kelly in a post game.
There is only one element of Chip Kelly's career with the 49ers that you can say he really did a good job with that. And that was handling the Colin Kaepernick firebrand fiasco.
And what did he do? He just said, "Hey, we love Colin, and Colin is great." I mean, he didn't try to go against Colin, which was smart, but he really, I don't know if I would say that he handled it well. He started Blaine Gabbert at the beginning of the season over Kaepernick. I don't know, but I hear what you're saying. He didn't allow it to become a gigantic firestorm or split the locker room or anything like that.
It was a firestorm, but it really wasn't a storm that burnt inside the Niners locker room. They stayed united, and I'll give Chip credit for that.
Jed deserves a little credit there too, because Jed said, "Hey, Colin, here's $1 million, and we're behind you." And the Niner players kept it together. They gave him the Eshmon Award. They didn't fracture internally, even though, I can tell you many stories of Daniel Kilgore and others getting really pissed as Colin was holding court in the middle of the locker room, talking to reporters about anything but football. And, guys were like, "Hey, this is a circus," and that kind of thing. But Kelly did a nice job as far as saying all the right things publicly.
Just the facts: the Niners have improved to 19-7 in the divisional round in franchise history, and Kyle Shanahan has a 70% winning percentage in the postseason. He's 7-3 as a head coach over 10 games, including a 3-0 record against Green Bay, and
5-0 at home, I believe.
And he has never lost a home playoff game, and he's never failed to win at least 2 playoff games in any playoff run. So if that truth remains, the Niners will be in the Super Bowl. So pretty good. Shanahan, again, he's reached the conference championship game in each of his first 4 playoff appearances as 49ers head coach. He is the second coach in NFL history to earn a trip to the conference championship game in each of his first 4 playoff appearances. The only other coach who ever did that was George Seifert. And George Seifert, by the way, was handed a champion on a platter. Kyle was handed anything but that. So
to me, the most impressive part, sorry, Damon, I was going to say the most impressive part about Kyle was how quickly he assembled a really good staff. He knows good players, but he also knows good coaches. D'Amico, Sala, Bobby Slowick. The Niners put together a very good staff.
Slowick's interviewing for 3 head coaching jobs virtually today. Yeah. So there could be another head coach off the Kyle Shanahan tree by the end of the week. So you're right. The evidence that Kyle hires the right coaches, or the coaches that he hires become head coaches. So, and that's what good coaches do. Good coaches aren't afraid to share the credit. Good coaches aren't afraid to spread around, responsibilities. And Kyle has done a hell of a job. Again, I really hope that he gets the Lombardi trophy, so the dumbest among the pundits and critics will finally have the only X marks the spot of they're good at this or they're bad at this, to finally identify and be able to say out loud, like, Kyle's really good at this. And look, we spent the first half hour of this program today criticizing him because we hold him to such a ridiculously high standard. I accuse him of seeking perfection. In a weird way, we're all seeking perfection from him, and perfection is not available in this league. It's not. It just isn't. This league is built to make sure you ain't perfect. And
everybody can be questioned. I mean, it's like questioning somebody does not mean doubting them. It means that you have another thought. And, you know, I'll say this about Kyle too, is, and I've talked to Chris Forster about this, the Niner offensive line coach. Kyle Shanahan doesn't care where a good idea comes from. If Damon Bruce has a good idea and he thinks it can help him win a game, guess what? He'll use Damon Bruce's idea. If Larry Krueger has a good idea, if Chris Forster has a good idea, if Brandon Allen walks in his room and, hey, Kyle, I've got a good idea, he doesn't care where a good idea comes from.
Joan and payroll? You think he's getting some Joan and payroll advice?
He'll take it from a guy in section 160. He doesn't care where a good idea comes from. And to me, that's a smart person.
Let's talk about playoff Brock, playoff Purdy. As we already told you, on the crucial drive that wins the game after an evening of not being on it. Purdy was not on his game, not for a minute, until the final drive when he went 6 for 7 for 47 yards, made an incredible scramble, converted a 3rd and 10 with that pass to Brandon Ayuk that looked like he might have trapped it against the ground. He didn't. Best play of the night from Ayuk, and he didn't make many plays out there last evening. The 17-yarder to Chris Conley, a guy who has been
loved it.
He's been so uninvolved all year. To be that involved in the biggest drive of the year just shows you that, hey, when your number is called, you got to go out there and do something. And give credit to Chris Conley. He did that. Purdy completed 23 of 39 for 252 yards, 1 touchdown. It didn't feel glorious. It wasn't glorious. Some of the decisions that he made were Jimmy Garoppolo level. Holy shit, that should have been a pick 6 going in the other direction.
How about the Jauan Jennings catch? That I thought that was, people said that, and I heard Olsen say
the high point of the high point.
Olsen was like, that might have been his best pass of the night. I disagree. That might have been his worst pass of the night. You can't just go by the result. You know, there's great passes that are incomplete. There's awful passes that are completed. That was an awful pass that was completed. There was 4 Packers all there. It floated in the middle of the field. There wasn't much on it. He completed it, but I mean, no. You know, it's like, no, you don't want that. I'll tell you this. I watched this game on the binoculars a lot. And the one thing I noticed, and I'd be interested to hear Brock talk about it this week, and I don't know if he will, but his footwork, at the top of his drop, his footwork was locked. His feet, it reminded me of Garoppolo, you know, where Garoppolo had one of 2 things going on. He either had pitter-patter feet, and they looked very, very, you know, the opposite of quiet feet. They were loud and like unsure of himself, or they were locked. Like literally he had used, like a basketball player that's used his dribble and can't move. Or like you see kids play youth basketball and they've used their dribble and then their feet are locked and they start leaning. Brock Purdy, the feet got locked at the top of his drop like at least 7 or 8 times. So I was calling for rollouts. I want to see the Kyle move the pocket just because get his feet moving a little bit. And you know, they just didn't call those plays. He was in the pocket a lot, but man, I'll say this. The one thing I love about Brock Purdy is that this guy shows up for the W. He doesn't care about the completion percentage. He doesn't care about his passing stats or his running stats or his this stat or his that stat. The guy's about the W. And I'll roll with the guys who show up to win. Well, you show up to win, you can play for me.
You know, we talk about mental acuity, and this is where Brock has a level of mental acuity to process and see the game in a way that is as, if not more valuable than any physical attribute that his critics will tell you he doesn't possess. Purdy did a great job last night on getting rid of the ball on a couple occasions. Some of the didn't take the negative plays
didn't turn it over.
Plays. Yeah. And but he tried a couple times. Holy shit.
Oh, my God. The savage one in the first half.
He got, again, the Niners got away with some football murder on Saturday night. They did.
He probably could have thrown 3 picks yesterday, maybe 4.
Yep. It could have happened. The way that he doesn't get stuck on something negative is among his greatest attributes. He puts things behind him, whether it be a great play and a touchdown or a horrific drive and a failure. He moves on, and that's what guys who've been well coached throughout their careers are able to do. Stay in the moment. Don't worry about the moment that has passed. Don't worry about the moments that are coming up. Be zen. Live in the moment. And Brock Purdy's great at being in the moment. Maybe the reason why his feet looked a little stapled is because he was unsure of his footing. I mean, I'm seriously wondering how many 49ers slipped and fell down on the way to the parking lot last night. Did they get their cleats right after the game? Because it didn't feel like they got their cleats right at any point in time during the game. Larry,
they announced
is Tayshaun Gibson out surfing somewhere today? Because that guy was floating on water all night last night.
Yeah, he couldn't keep his feet. Mooney couldn't keep his feet. There was a point in the game, and this is another advantage when you watch it on TV as opposed to being there. You know, I didn't realize this, but they said it in the broadcast when I watched the rewatch. The Niner defenders were all changing their cleats in the middle of the game.
Yes.
Guys, that's got to happen. That's got to happen in the pregame. And I had a long conversation with O'Neal about this, and there's 3 different, cleat links that you can go to. And I asked O'Neal, I said, well, why wouldn't you just go with the deepest cleat? And he's like, Krug, sometimes that if you go with the deepest cleat, your feet actually stick. And some guys really don't like that feeling. It's almost like walking on a beach or in mud, and it's hard to pick them up and put them down, and you lose a little speed if you go to a longer cleat. But yeah, I mean, you got to test that thing out in the pregame. But I guess when the rain came heavy, guys started switching their cleats. Supposedly the entire Niner defense were switching their cleats in that second quarter or like late first quarter.
Penn State used to come on out and have the rack of shoes on the sideline. Like the Niners maybe need to pull a Joe Paterno card out and just travel with a rack of cleats to change into. It was, look, you know me, I don't like Levi's Stadium, and Candlestick might have drained better than Levi's Stadium. That was a wet surface that the Packers played a lot better on than the Niners did. So they either got to get their equipment manager on the spot, or how do you have a brand new stadium that doesn't have the proper field drainage? If that was the issue, I don't know. But it just, the Niners did not look comfortable on their own home field. And that to me is always hard to explain away.
And Brock's got to decide: do you want to go with the glove? Do you not want to go with the glove?
Right.
And I don't know what. Maybe somebody can design a towel that somehow you can vacuums up water or something.
Larry, the ShamWow. We've seen the infomercial.
Maybe
ShamWow out there.
When you go to the dentist and you've got drool going, and they go get that thing, and it's yeah. How about a towel that has an electric towel that has a moisture suck up right there? Something. But I'll say this:
hand warmers.
The Super Bowl's played in the Dome.
That's right.
Super Bowl will be played in the Dome, in the Mark Davis Dome. So the PF Chang's Dome. Niners won't need any concern there. So they can just get there. And next week is supposed to be more dry than this week. So, but it does make you wonder about January football. And how did Brock Purdy do this? How is he so successful at Iowa State? I've been to Ames, Iowa. They get bad weather there most of the year.
Would be the best way to describe Ames, Iowa.
Yeah, so how did this guy do it there?
One would argue that he didn't. I mean, he was very good, but he was also not good enough to be drafted in a round that anyone considers, a decent round to be drafted in. He has
32 school records.
He does. But, it obviously he wasn't that impressive, or he wouldn't have been the last pick in the draft.
I've never seen a player do what Brock Purdy did last night. He literally was drying his hands in the middle of a play.
In the middle of I've not seen that one either. I haven't seen that one either. They're going to have to figure out a way to animate that on the next version of Madden. Either way, Larry, dry hand, wet hand, good ball, bad ball, cleat, foot quietness, foot happiness, foot stapled to the ground. Brock Purdy became the 5th quarterback in NFL history to win a playoff game in each of his first 2 seasons. There's been a lot of quarterbacks. It's a short list when there's only 5. Joe Flacco, Ben Roethlisberger, Mark Sanchez, and Russell Wilson. Now you got a couple lucky situations in there. You got a couple Hall of Fame quarterbacks in there. Brock Purdy, who knows where it goes? Who knows where it really ends up and finish? We don't know where this year goes or finishes, much less his career. It's one of the greatest starts any quarterback has ever had in the history of their careers. Full stop. Nothing to criticize. There's nothing for Amy Trask to refute. There's nothing for Nick Wright to refute there. You don't like the player, his poise, his build, his physical makeup. That's not what I'm talking about. How many games did you win? Did you go to the playoffs? And what'd you do when you get there at the beginning of your career? Brock Purdy has as much to pull out as Milton Berle does. And showing at the beginning of his career is legit.
Did you see Amy Trask's tweet? She said, "Dear Brock Purdy, you led your 49ers to a game-winning touchdown. Congratulations. If you advance to the Super Bowl, which I believe you will, I'll treat you to ice cream in Las Vegas. Congratulations, 49er fans. Enjoy this." I don't even want to read the comments because the comments are going to be like, it's going to be all negative. Amy's a good person.
Amy is a good person. And I think the reason why what she said was offensive is because we do know she actually does know football. She really does. She knows as much, she knows football. And for her to just be that dismissive, it felt a little created in the moment for attention. And she certainly did get a lion's share of attention for it.
She got a lot of attention.
And if she wants to have the Amy Trask ice cream social in Las Vegas, I hope you and I both get tickets to that because it'll be fun and she'll have sprinkles. Let's talk about Christian McCaffrey, who again, it's almost like Steph Curry. You expect him to hit 6 threes every night and you don't even acknowledge when it happens. We expect Christian McCaffrey to score a couple of touchdowns every single time he's in a football game. And you don't even it doesn't feel like a standout moment when he scores multiple touchdowns even. That's how used we are to seeing it. Well, McCaffrey, 17 carries, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground to go along with 7 catches for 30 yards through the air. And I'm going to tell you right now, it was a C+ game for Christian McCaffrey.
So he did have one of the greatest plays of the year in this game. The 39-yard touchdown run. The jump cut on that was absolutely sinister. I mean, he made 2 guys miss. It was a phenomenal jump cut. There were 2 defenders there. He jumped from his right to his left. It was such an explosive jump cut that suddenly he had guys in front of him and to his left, and he jump cut to the left, and then they were both on. He jump cut so decisively that then they now were on his right-hand side, and then he took it to the house. I love this. I love Christian McCaffrey's, dependability, and also he's a tone setter. He's an absolute tone setter. It was great to see him on that touchdown run, and
it felt like Kyle didn't use him nearly enough after the entire regular season, maybe overusing him. In the biggest game of the year, he forgets he's got Christian McCaffrey, the best running back in the NFL, and he's handing off to Jauan Jennings, who I don't think had a carry from a running back spot. Maybe he had an end around or a little razzle-dazzle something. I don't even know if he had that, honestly, as I think back through the entire year. But Christian McCaffrey had 9 carries for 33 yards with a long of 6 in the first half. So it was, or first quarter, I should say. But it wasn't a great game for the 49ers offensive line. I don't think it was a great game for the 49ers offense. It was a bad game, I think, for the 49ers defensive line. It wasn't a great night in the secondary. The 2 linebackers put this team into the win column as much as that final drive, and we will get to Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner here. As a matter of fact, let's get there right now, because Dre Greenlaw had himself an entire career in just one football game. His 2 interceptions are the first time a 49er player had 2 interceptions in a playoff game since Eric Davis picked off Troy Aikman twice in the 95 championship game. Greenlaw is also the first NFL linebacker to have 2 picks in a playoff game since Tommy Polley did it for the St. Louis Rams against Brett Favre. Remember Tommy Polley? Remember that name?
No.
Greenlaw. No, not really, right? 8 tackles, 2 interceptions, his first 2 postseason interceptions of his career, and one was bigger than the other. He has now 62 career playoff tackles. That's the 5th most by a 49er player in franchise history. Fred Warner, 7 tackles on the evening. He's now got 71 in his playoff career. That's the 3rd most in franchise history. So
put Dre Greenlaw in the goddamn Pro Bowl. My God. Seriously, what does it take? This guy is the most overlooked player in pro football. I mean, seriously, his first year in the NFL, 92 tackles. 92 tackles in 2019. Followed it up in 2020 with 86. This year, he had 127 tackles. Put that guy in the Pro Bowl. It's unbelievable that this guy doesn't get more love for the Pro Bowl.
You know, it's hard to be, admired as a really good power hitter when you're either right in front of or behind Barry Bonds. And that's the thing. He's playing next to Fred Warner, who nobody hesitates to tell you that Fred Warner might be the best at this in the league. And therefore, it just takes a little off Greenlaw's plate in the final evaluation. And that's what's happening more than anything else. If Fred Warner weren't here and it was Dre Greenlaw's team, he'd be that Pro Bowler.
He's such a great dude, too. Friday, I'm standing right there at his locker as him and Purdy have that corner lockers right next to each other. And I always joke with them. I'm like, hey, man, this is like if this were the Monopoly board, I go, this is, this is Park Place over here.
Boardwalk.
This is the boardwalk in Park Place. I mean, you guys, this is Pack Heights of the locker room. Those guys were sitting there and they were just rapping like dudes. And Brock was, asking him how his rehab was going. And Dre was telling about, hey, man, I've been rehabbing hard and I got here early. This guy, I don't think people realize how many man hours has gone into Dre trying to get right physically. He took a couple weeks off, but he's getting to the facility 5 a.m., 6 a.m., getting treatment, getting, extra, taking shots, trying to get ready. Dre appreciates Brock. Brock appreciates Dre. The 2 guys are very different guys, different backgrounds. And Dre's had a tough life. That's another thing. This guy is the picture of perseverance and doesn't complain. Happy-go-lucky guy on the field. And Damon, I've asked this question to a bunch of guys over the last couple of years. I'm like, man, if stuff's going down in a barroom brawl, you can have anybody in the room roll up and back you. Who you got? Dre Greenlaw's name comes up first. I mean, seriously, the guys respect the hell out of him. Here we go. This one, St. Patty. Greenlaw is football.
There you go. That's a pretty good way to say it. I mean, the guy represents what you want in a football player. Just all break, no gas, on the edge of
opposite. You mean all gas, no break?
All
you mean
gas, no break? Yeah, sorry, not all. No, I guess he's putting the brakes on the arm. I don't know. Yeah, I screwed that up.
He'll break you. He'll break you.
There you go. That's what I meant to say. So if that corner of the locker room is Boardwalk and Park Place, I guess last night.
Where's Baltic?
Ambry Thomas is Marvin Gardens. That's last night. Ambry Thomas had probably the worst game of his professional career, given the stakes, given the moment. He was awful.
Well, you got to play with more poise and with the balls in the air.
He's a good football player who had a really bad night.
Yeah. I mean, you got to play with poise when the ball in the air. And, one of the biggest plays in pro football is to underthrow the deep ball and then have the receiver come back for it. But when you've got to turn and look and find the ball, or you can't let that receiver just come back into you. And then if he does, you got to get out of the way. You can't just bulldoze him. You got the young Niner DBs. The Niners got away with one last night. They will not win the Super Bowl if their young DBs don't play with more poise with the ball in the air. They have to play with greater poise with the ball in the air. Simple as that. And I don't know how that's done. It's up to Bullocks and the Wilkes and the DB. Wilkes is a former DB and he's a great DB coach. And man, Steve, if you're watching this, you got to get those guys coached up in the next couple weeks. And the young DB, there is no Jason Verrett. Nobody's coming to rescue the young DBs. You're young on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. Logan Ryan's going to help. Gibson had a rough one yesterday, though he did make a number of plays. But Jair Brown, Ambry Thomas, Demo, Womack. Maybe Womack gets up in one of these games. Luter. These guys have to play, and they got to play with poise, or they're not getting it done.
And look, if a defensive back's best friend is a pass rush, defensive backs had no friends out there last night. What happened to this 49ers defensive line? I don't think there was any unit on the field that had a better game than the Packers offensive line. They created the holes for Jones. Obviously, the downfield blocking by the skill players was on full display all night long. This is where you and I talked about how the Packers really do echo the best of the 49ers. They got a full team playing every run play. It's not just the offensive line and the running back. Everybody's in on a run play. I was stunned, though, to see this defensive line. If I had walked up to you before the game and just said, Larry, here's the only thing I can guarantee. Jordan Love is not sacked tonight. Did the Niners win that game? You would have said, no way.
I talked about this all week. Green Bay was number 2 in the NFL in pass block win rate. So that's a stat that I really do believe in as far as offensive line stats. I don't.
Was Detroit number 1, Larry? Was Detroit number 1?
I'm not sure, actually.
Because if it is if you
might
think
be. They might be
the Packers offensive line was good, wait till you see the Lions blow in here next week if they're the team that shows up, because they have a gonna whoop your ass across the line of scrimmage football team.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
That is the working motto of the entire Detroit Lions offensive line, who, because they're still alive and the Eagles ain't, they get to say they're the best offensive line in football.
Pass block win rate by team. Let me see if I can find that. I'm still looking it up, but I will say this. That was a concern, and I mentioned it to O'Neal in the pregame. The 49ers have a big-name offensive line, our defensive line. They had 6 hits on Love all night. 5 of them came from Nick Bosa. 1 came from Javon Kinlaw. Chase Young, got to hit the quarterback. Randy Gregory, you got to hit the quarterback. Anybody, you got to hit the quarterback. Anybody not named Nick Bosa, hit the quarterback somehow, some way. Hit the quarterback. The Niners are going to have to hit the quarterback. I mean, they're absolutely going to have. They get Goff next week. They got to hit him. If they get Lamar in the Super Bowl, they got to hit him.
Hey, Hargrave had a really good season. I'm not even sure he played last night.
Oh gosh, I was really disappointed in his lack of production. Did he show up in the box?
His name is not on the box score.
How about how many snaps did Sebastian Joseph Day get? I mean, he played quite a bit. And by the way, I just in the rewatch, Feliciano started at right guard. Do you know? I'm looking for the snap count. Let me see if I can find the snap count. I saw Burford. Burford was in there quite a bit at right guard. So I got to figure out I got to get that snap count. Let's see. I got the box here. I got to find that because how many snaps did Burford play?
I'll tell you another thing that we got wrong too, Larry. You know, if we're going to try to victory lap when we're right, let's talk about when we're wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Eric Armstead, I thought that he would be the balm that, solved all the running performance issues that the Niners have been looking at. I thought that his return to the middle of this defensive line was going to really shut down the concept of a running game popping off against the Niners. It didn't. The Niners got pushed around at the line of scrimmage last night. They really did. They did. It was Eric Armstead. Didn't see him. Hargrave, didn't hear his name all night. Chase Young, man, I really hope that you can pay off Chase Young with a big play or two in the upcoming remainder of this postseason, because I think you're looking for a new team next year. This team cannot turn around and hand Chase Young a $25 million a year contract, Larry. He's not worth it.
Well, it's not coming. It's not coming. And there's a bunch of good pass rushers in this draft. We'll get into it in the springtime.
Right.
But
look, it was a no-brainer to add Chase Young for this year. I think it's also
and he's helped. He's helped
away from Chase Young at the end of this year.
He's helped. But man, they got it. Somebody not named Bosa's got to hit the quarterback. I mean, I don't care. Maybe you got to activate Robert Beal. Maybe you got to activate, somebody else. I don't know, but you got to hit the quarterback. You absolutely got to hit the quarterback. They didn't do it enough. Didn't do it enough at all.
Maybe we need to put this on the table too, since he was one of the biggest concerns going into the postseason. What about this rookie kicker? Well, you could say the ball came out on a too low trajectory, but a blocked kick, it didn't. Some block kicks are totally on the kicker. I don't know if that block kick was on Moody. So he doesn't even get to, come close on his first field goal attempt of the postseason. But then he hits that 52-yarder. Larry, the 52-yarder is the third longest field goal in 49er playoff postseason history. Only Robbie Gould, who had a 53 and a 54-yarder, had more. And honestly, had Jake Moody not started the fourth quarter with that kick, had the third quarter not elapsed and he's kicking that way, it might not have gone. That thing just cleared the bar, and he's got a big leg. So Moody came through with a field goal that was the difference in the final of the game. And thank God Matt LaFleur was a little aggressive early on, because he passed on an easier to make field goal, and then he watched his field goal kicker miss another field goal. So the Packers, sort of left 6 points right there on the field in a 3-point loss. So, and this is,
by the way, Damon, since we're going through the facts and the numbers, one fact that I think is really interesting, when we go back and think of Brock Purdy and the job that he did in this game and that final drive and how he struggled before that final drive, do you realize that if George Kittle catches that ball that was right on the hands, that he just turned and tried to run up field, Purdy would have been 7 for 7 for like 60 yards with 2 rushes for 11 yards on that last drive. I mean, that would have almost been, stuff of Niner lore. I mean, 6 of 7's great too, but how many people would be saying, yeah, he was 7 for 7 and he was perfect when it mattered. I mean, he really was. Brock Purdy on the final drive, I mean, they're down 21-17 with 6:18 to go. The ball's on their own 31-yard line. They march 69 yards on 12 plays, and it all wraps up with the McCaffrey 6-yard burst for the touchdown. Purdy was a George Kittle drop away from being 7 for 7 on the drive.
It was a system drive, Larry. System drive. System drive.
It was an incredible system drive.
Maybe did you find either of the stats that you were looking for? By the way, we'll put them right here in the
No, I didn't see how many snaps Burford played. I'll probably get that later, but I was surprised. I thought Feliciano was going to be the guy full time at right guard, but no, it didn't happen that way. They used Burford quite a bit in this game.
So this is maybe more of my opinion than it is a fact, but I think it's an informed opinion, and I don't think anyone in the chat or you or anyone is going to argue with me on this.
And T-Dubs says Robert Beal was on the field many times last night. He is active. So, I mean, and he's a young player, but he's got a lot of speed. I mean, they got to get to the quarterback, I'm not sure who or how, but they need to do it.
For the first time all year, let's be totally honest about this. For the first time all year, the 49ers won a game when they weren't at their best. When the Niners weren't at their best this year, they lost. And they were, more on their best than they were off their best all season long, which is why they're hosting the NFC title game next weekend. But when they weren't on, when it wasn't the A game, they lost.
Oh, here it is, Damon. Gizmo Maltese. Larry, Detroit is 13th in pass block win rate.
Wow, I think it'd be better than that. I mean, they make their bones in the running game too.
Yeah. It's a great O-line, but just shows what, this was a very difficult Packer team. I mean, this Packer team didn't allow Dallas to sack Love either, and shut down the great Micah Parsons. So
for the first time, the Niners were the first team in the playoffs in 13 seasons without overcoming a second half deficit to win a game.
Say that again.
The 49ers were the first team to make the playoffs in the past 13 seasons without overcoming a second half deficit to win a game.
Yeah.
This is where we come back to them being front runners. If the Niners were in control of a game, they won the game. When they weren't in control of games, they didn't win a game. They weren't in control of that game against the Packers at any point in time until victory formation. And Shanahan even admitted, the quote was, there were times when we were all off. How many football teams win football games when the head coach is admitting, yeah, we all weren't that impressive tonight? So it wasn't pretty. And if you needed that final box, and a lot of people insisted they needed to check this final box to be taken seriously, they checked the fuck out of it last night because they won an ugly game. Can the Niners win ugly? Up until Saturday night, the answer was, well, if they can, they haven't yet. Hopefully they can, but they haven't yet. They won ugly on Saturday night against the Packers. And that's undeniable. Again, my opinion, sure, but I also think it's a fact. We'll put that in there, and that is our final Just the Facts segment. Kevin Kruger, edit. There you go.
Nick Bosa, we needed a win like that. We just haven't come from behind in a while. The Niners had a comeback victory. The last time the Niners had a comeback victory was in Week 17 last season against the Raiders in Vegas, where Purdy led them from behind. They were 10 down in the fourth. They tied the game, forced overtime, and won it in overtime. Kyle Shanahan entering last night, 0 for 30. The Niners were in games, including the playoffs, when they trailed by 7 or more points entering the fourth quarter. They had 3 games like that this year in the regular season. They lost all 3. So they were down 21-14 entering the fourth quarter, and they pulled it out. So now they're 1-30. So, I mean, there you go. And I'll say this too, it's such a weird time in Niner history. Why? Because the Niners have 5 Lombardis. And yet we're all obsessed with number 6. And nobody in their 30s has ever seen them win the Super Bowl. But in the midst of all this harangue, all this they're not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. What they did last night was advance to their 3rd straight NFC title game. And they're in the NFC title game for the 4th time in the last 5 years. Now, we all know it ain't good enough. Jed says, hey, look, we play for Lombardi trophies and we're looking for number 6. And I get it. We all get it. But if we're really going to be balanced and we're really going to be fair-minded, and you and I try to be, and you don't do this as long as we've been doing this, if you don't try to at least to be fair-minded, that's a pretty damn good run. 4 NFC championship games in the past 5 years. Now, I don't want to see the Niners be the Buffalo Bills of the NFC. And neither do any of you. But we need to pause and look at the body of work that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have authored here in San Francisco and say, you know what? Jed got it right by hiring these guys. These are the right guys. And hopefully this is the year they climb to the top of the mountain. And once the levee breaks and they get that ring, I think there's 1 or 2 more coming.
That's the thing. The minute that Kyle Shanahan proves himself to be the wartime consigliere that a lot of people say he's not. He's really good, but he's not a wartime consigliere. Papa had Jack and Luke. Look what I got.
I like the way you said that. You roll the R's there.
Well, I grew up around a lot of Italians, Larry, in the mob. I knew guys who push buttons. But look, this is a team that's been on the precipice, and if being on the precipice of a championship were this easy, other teams would do it. Believe me. You know, no one wants to see a team get so close and fall short, but being so close, so consistently long, when you can see just, it's not even, it's impressive to be consistent from one season into the next, much less consistent over half a decade. It's hard to be consistent from week 1 to week 8, from week 8 to week 17. It's hard to be consistent in a month. It's hard to win 5 games in a row in the NFL. The Niners did that twice this year. It is really hard to show up and play well week after week after week, much less season after season after season. Everything in this league is built to destroy your success. Every element of it, how teams reload, the cap is working against you. The draft is working against you. Free agency is working against you.
Coaching hires are working against you.
The carousel, as it always spins, a lack of continuity is working against you from all angles at all times. And that's before anybody gets hurt. You know what I mean? That's before a single person is unable to play today.
It all comes down to personnel evaluation. You have to have the right personnel. You got to know who the good personnel people are. You got to know who the great young coaches are. You got to know who the best players coming out in the college game are. And you got to sharpen your sword every year, because there's great young coaches and there's great young executives. And now Adam Peters is a Commander. And now D'Amico Ryans is a Texan. And now Bobby Slowick's a Texan and soon to be somewhere else. And you got to adapt, and you got to keep stocking your shelves with great personnel evaluators, great up and coming coaches. And you got to find the players in the draft. I will say this. I love the Niners plan. They let the rank and file free agent walk. They collect compensatory picks. They pour those extra compensatory picks into the draft. They kick ass after the draft and on day 3 of the draft. They sign 1 or 2 premier free agents. I love their equation. They just haven't climbed to the top of the mountain. I think their equation's the best going right now. The one thing I would wish they would do a little bit more of is what the Ravens do, which is Eric DeCosta and Ozzie Newsome. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. They draft great college football players and project them to be great professional football players. They don't go with 40 times and fall in love with guys at the combine, and they're really disciplined about it. And I wish the Niners would be a little bit more like DeCosta and Newsome and go after some of the great college football players at a higher level than they even do. But that's just trying to be, that's chasing perfection. But the Niners, I think, handle free agency as well as anybody. I think their track record on day 3 of the draft and post-draft with their signings, look at it. Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, you name it, up and down. Dre Greenlaw was a 5th-round pick. George Kittle was a 5th-round pick. Hufanga was a 5th-round pick. Purdy was a 7th-round pick. DJ Jones was a 6th-round pick. I mean, they're finding guys after the draft left and right. They're doing a nice job. They really are. That's why the Niners roster has some of the greatest stars and some of the greatest depth. And to me, if they can continue that trend, they're going to be challenging for those Lombardis every year.
Well, and look, it is harder. It's never been easy to evaluate a college player coming into the NFL, because there's no element of collegiate success that dictates professional success. There really isn't. Your situation, the way that you're coached, the way that the team functions around you. Again, nobody is good enough to be the one individual that changes the entire arc of a football team, but for maybe at times a quarterback that is that special. But this is the ultimate team game. And like you're just saying, to win in the ultimate team game and to win consistently in the ultimate team game, you have to build yourself a hell of a team. The Niners have maintained a level of consistency, maybe, Larry, through the least consistent era to ever really evaluate talent coming out of college. First of all, you're going to have in the coming years more incentive for guys to stay in college, which actually might benefit the NFL in the long run, but it could affect the depth of like the next draft or two. Like when the guy is finally ready to turn pro because he's exhausted his eligibility, because he stayed there for 4 years. He didn't come out after his junior year because that NIL money is so good. Maybe the draft isn't as deep in the next couple of years. But in just the past couple of years, you're dealing with, the introduction of NIL money. You're dealing with the weird COVID year, which made it awfully hard to evaluate. You're dealing with a transfer portal, which doesn't give you a consistent look at some talented guys in a system. They're in a new system each and every year. This has been...
That's a great point.
Yeah, there has been more unsure footing in an always unsure footing arena like player evaluation coming out of college. The last 4 years have been incredibly difficult to get the grasp of who's good at anything.
That's a great point. I'll also say this. There's one other factor that we're not talking about. There's such a massive advantage that the premier programs have. Bama, Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Michigan. Those schools have so much talent that you have to scout and evaluate players that don't play. Robert Beal didn't play very much at Georgia. You know what I mean? He didn't play very much, but he's got an NFL body, he's got NFL talent, and he's an NFL prospect of note. But he didn't play very much at Georgia. So now you gotta figure out who the 5 stars are that are sitting the bench at LSU, or sitting the bench at Georgia, or sitting the bench at Bama, and you got to figure out what those guys are going to be, and that's really difficult to do. So, it's made this whole thing very, very, very difficult. But yeah, it's all about, you win with players, and the Niners have done a really good job at getting those players, and even without Peters, they're going to have to figure out a way to keep doing that.
Welcome to Wake Up. It's wonderful to have you here. Damon, Bruce, Larry Krueger, 49er fans, you have woken up in the NFC title game. In a matter of hours, we're going to know exactly who you're playing, which means Larry and I are going to be back at it Monday morning, 8 a.m., normal start time for Wake Up, Monday morning West Coast, and we will be previewing the first bite of the what's coming in the NFC game. Apple will be had tomorrow morning, Monday morning, 8 a.m. West Coast time. Join us here on Damon Bruce Plus or The Krug Show. We are simulcasting on both channels. Hit like, hit subscribe. Memberships available. Notify. Make the algorithm kiss both of us on the forehead. I hope we're doing a good job for you. Thank you so much for watching.
We have a ton of supers, by the way. Okay. People asking, hey, where's my super chat? Where's my super chat? This is the one thing about StreamYard. It's sometimes I'm like, I don't know exactly, how to work in the super chats, because we're having a conversation and then I've got the chat going here. I've got the super chats over there. Some people are really good at it and they get to them real quick. When we get it going and we got 2,000 people in the room, we got almost 2,200 in the room right now. The chats come in so fast. And so I see them there. We got 27 super chats sitting there that we're going to get to here. And we absolutely will get them.
When you go over to the starred chats or if you're already checked marked things, you might miss the next one to come by in a chat that is moving faster than an Olympic sprinting team. So it's we're doing the very best that we can. Neither of us have an in-studio producer here. So thank you so much for all your support and whatnot. Again, great way to support is just by being a member. And there you go. We can never miss that.
Look at Red Eye. Red Eye's told me something I didn't know. He says, Red Eye says, you can slow the chat stream. It's in the edit tools. Okay.
Cool. Again, Larry and I, we're still new here.
We're learning. We're learning.
We're getting it. We're going to get all caught up soon.
I told Tom, I told Tate, the chat goes too fast for me. I can't even get a bite of a meat cheese. And then all of a sudden there's Robert Baldacci. And then there's YouTube Benton and Logdiza and Jedi. And, it's just going so fast.
You can slow that down. You can slow that down. Did you know that you go into the edit? You go into the edits and then you slow it down. But you can't slow down Christian Kirk. And that's why I'm going to give him $25 million a year.
Okay. I wish these guys would just tear an ACL so they would slow down Lowry.
All right. So Lowry, new segment. It's the playoffs, baby. We got to keep it fresh. New segment.
Oh, today's going to be, by the way, let's just all celebrate today is going to be a great day.
Stress-free football watching.
As Ice Cube once sang, today's going to be a great day. I mean, seriously, we're talking about 2 football games today with no pressure. We're not going. There's no pressure. You're just sitting on the couch, drinking, eating, doing whatever you do, enjoying a little Sunday football today. Today's going to be a glorious day. The sun is shining. My day consists of this show, Bills Chiefs tonight, Bucks Lions, and then my kids playing flag football. And he had 30 last night in the basketball game. I missed it, but my 14-year-old went for 30 in the
30
spot. He had a 30 spot.
Look at that.
My 14-year-old Euro steps behind the back. He had a play in last week's game where the crowd gasped. Damon, I couldn't believe it. He's a 14-year-old that made the crowd go. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. Today is going to be a great day. I'm going to watch a little flag football, a little pro football. I'm probably going to cook something. I'm not really sure what. I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to maybe get a little trashed. I mean, it's going to be good.
When's the last time you made anybody gasp?
Oh, seriously.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
I mean, it's been a while. It's going to be a great day.
New segment, and then I don't want any more of it. Okay, and this has got to be short because, like you said, great day. Even though it's a little rainy, sun is out.
It's sunny here in the creek.
Birds are chirping. Grass,
barbecue ribs. Fear the Phantom.
Barbecue. Fire up that grill later on. It's a good day to be a 49er fan. But our new segment is called the Complaint Department. Larry, I'm only going to allow you to lodge one complaint. There was plenty to complain about of last night. What is your single biggest complaint from last night? While you think of yours, let me tell you what mine is.
Yeah, you start. You start.
Kind of agree on this one. My biggest complaint is Kyle never doesn't get tight in a moment where it's like, hey, you can either stay loose or you can get tight here. Feels like Kyle gets tight. He gets tight at the end of that half. There is a quest for control and perfection that he's got to let go of. He's got to let go of it. He is such a control freak. Again, he wants to control the clock down to, we scored our touchdown at the end of the half with 000s on the clock. Aren't we the best? No, the best is don't burn 40 seconds at midfield and shrink your own amount of opportunity and the plays that you can run in your playbook. Kyle took away the middle of the field from himself there more than the Packers did at the end of that first half because he had to either be looking sidelines or they had to get something so short and underneath that they'd have enough time to run back and clock it because they only had one timeout left, which you need to set up the field goal. Like Kyle in big moments gets tight. And that is a complaint that I believe applies to Saturday night. I believe it applies to past playoff failures, and I hope it doesn't apply to upcoming playoff games.
All right, here's my one complaint. And some people are going to say, well, this is not how it's done and this and that. I don't want to hear excuses. You had no Deebo Samuel. To me, the 49ers value proposition. You say, do you think the 49ers can win the Super Bowl? Yeah, I fucking think the 49ers can win the Super Bowl. Why do you think that? Because they have Christian McCaffrey, they have Deebo Samuel, and they have Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk has got to touch the ball more than 3 times. Come on. Chris Conley and Ray McLeod combined and touched the ball 2 times. Brandon Ayuk has got to touch the ball more than 3 times. I don't care how you do it. You can't go end around. You can't go an end around to Ayuk. You can't throw him a hitch. Ayuk's got to touch the ball. He's got to touch the football. When Deebo went out, to me, I thought Ayuk's got to touch it 10 times, not 3 times. He's too good. This guy was the best player on the field in training camp. His radius is endless. He can catch the ball up. He can catch the ball down. He can catch the ball in, out. Get Ayuk the fucking football more. Have him touch it more. 3 touches for Ayuk ain't cutting it. He's got to touch the ball. He's too damn good. You're talking about an all-pro wide receiver in a win. You win, you move on. You lose, you are going home. 3 touches for Brandon Ayuk in a game where Deebo goes out in the first quarter. Let him touch the football.
How about this? If you're
end around, run it to him. Any way you have to do it, scheme it, make him touch the ball.
If you're only going to give Brandon Ayuk 3 touches, it better be because you got 45 carries coming out of that backfield. And I was surprised that Kyle abandoned Christian McCaffrey in big moments and almost the running game in a 1-possession game. And it does drive me nuts that we did not see Elijah Mitchell on the field. We didn't see Jordan Mason. Like, this team has one running back that's better than the rest, but they also have 2 other really good running backs that I think need to be involved in some way other than McCaffrey is hurt and cannot play. I think that Elijah Mitchell has earned a level of touches, and Jordan Mason should be used in some short yardage situations, if anything, just to take the load off McCaffrey for those high impact plays.
I agree. Jordan Mason he's got more energy right now because he doesn't ever play. He's so fresh, he's so big, he's so fast. My God. I mean, they found a way to use their back, Wilson. I mean, he's a young guy. Jordan Mason's not a rookie. The guy he's a bulldozer with speed. He's to me, he looks like a young Marshawn Lynch. They act like this guy beat up Shanahan's family or something. Get him out there. I mean, what does people have against this guy? Jordan Mason is a beast. He's a total monster. And they never use him at all. I mean, come on. Use that guy. Even if you used him 3 times a game, he's a power back who can run over you, through you. He's fast. Get him the ball. I agree. Short yardage. You're telling me you can't get Jordan Mason with 3 steps of speed and say, go into the line as hard as you can? Oh, by the way, I got to say this because on the rewatch, it was clear as day. On the McCaffrey 6-yard touchdown, you know who absolutely kicked ass? Colton McKivitz. Oh, my God. Go watch that play again. He obliterated Wooten. Is that his name? The guy who got the field goal block was in there late in the game. And Colton McKivitz caved him in. McCaffrey ran into that end zone. Oh, that block by McKivitz. I'm gonna talk to him this week about that block. He eliminated that guy on the goal line. McKivitz, tremendous block right there.
I thought maybe the nastiest hit of the game came from Diamador Lenore. He absolutely crushed Dontavian Wicks. I mean,
Dontavian Wicks was shut out.
Just buried him. Diamador Lenore did a hell of a job. I mean, he put the kind of hit on him that we talk about, like it wasn't dirty, but this is the shit that Mark Chamorro was trying to talk about. He's just stupid and did it the wrong way. But you hit a guy through the echo of the whistle. You go out and you are just as physical as humanly possible. And you saw Diamador Lenore coming up from any and all moments, looking to squabble with somebody, a lot of post play, pushing and shoving and staring into the other dude's face mask and barking at each other. Like, I love that shit. And Diamador Lenore, he took a big step forward in my guys I like watch him play wish list last night. He was phenomenal.
He's seriously, that guy is, and I talked to him earlier in the week, and he was the one guy who I love corners because they're cocky as hell. If you show me a corner that's kind of well, I don't know, hopefully, don't draft him.
Right.
You gotta, to be a corner, who would have been an awesome corner? Pat Bev. If you got Pat Beverly and made him a corner, oh my God, he would have been an all-pro corner. He's a decent NBA player, but he would have been a ridiculous corner.
Russell
because
Westbrook.
Yeah, he would have been the tallest corner of all time. But I mean, pesty as hell and just cocky with a swagger. And, Diamador Lenore this week was like, we're not going to lose. And I love guys who are not afraid to say how they actually feel. You could say, well, they almost lost and he would have looked bad, but you know what? So what? He believes it. And I that kind of you need when you're going to be going backpedaling, trying to mirror 4-3 wide receivers up and down the field. They know where they're going. You don't know where you're going. You're just trying to mirror them. It takes a special level of confidence and swagger and belief. And Demo's got it. He's awesome, man. He was absolutely phenomenal last night.
I don't think it's going to be a real concern because all signs from the Niners are that there's no lingering issue here on Deebo, which to me, again, don't ever call an NFL player soft. The fact that they're in the league means you're wrong about that. But it is odd to see a player like Deebo Samuel come off the field, return to the field without pads on, which means his night's over, only to realize it wasn't that bad after all. He's okay. That is odd. That is odd. I was expecting to hear some sort of, and the MRI showed that there is a tear in that shoulder. He had a partial separation. There's something wrong with the labrum, something that was to be worried about through the week going forward as we approach the NFC title game. It sounds like if the NFC title game were to be played on Wednesday, Deebo would go.
According to Adam Schefter's source said that there's a chance for Deebo to play in the NFC Championship game with Deebo himself telling a teammate he's okay. Asked if Deebo Samuel had a chance to play in next Sunday's conference championship game. One source said, yes, I do. So there you go. It is a little bizarre. These guys are anything but soft. Deebo is as tough as they come. So I don't know what's going on. Sometimes there's a scare. Sometimes you think it's one thing. Sometimes you have more pain or up front than and there's no structural damage and you get the MRI. I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you, but Shanahan said he didn't know the extent of it last night. Obviously, we'll get more concrete data. I don't care if what happened last night. All I care about is that Deebo's ready to roll because he's their money guy, man. They gotta have him. This team is not as good without Deebo Samuel. You know it. I know it. Kittle said it last night on the podium. 49er talk, sports talk says Deebo shouldn't be used as a running back at any point. I disagree. That's what he's good at. Yeah. But at the same time, you can't say, well, he got hurt, so don't use him. He's a football player. Football players, I said this to my son when he played high school football. I said, you have to understand, if you play football, it's 100% injury sport. It's not like, hey, man, you might get hurt. No, you will get hurt. Okay? You will get hurt. It's just a matter of where and to what extent and to what degree. So if you can't deal with that as a reality, then don't play. Go play something else because you will get hurt. And sure enough, broke his clavicle, had some injuries. I mean, it's just, there's, you're going to get hurt. You play enough games, you're going to get hurt. It's as simple as that. But
I want to get into the chats, and I know you got a lot of starred chats, and we'll do that. My other only, and again, edit point, Kevin Kruger. Here you go. Final news segment is formal request. Larry, you get to make one formal request to Kyle Shanahan directly of something you'd like to see more of as this team goes forward. What would your formal request be? And let me ask you straight up, does it involve Jair Alexander? Because that might be my formal request, certainly on the defensive side of the football. Maybe
Jair Brown.
Yes, Jair Brown, not Jair Alexander.
I thought you were making a late season trade.
No, I don't think that's available.
I would like you to trade for Jair Alexander.
Hey, you guys are out of it now. We'd like to make a trade.
That would be awesome. That's like bad fantasy league stuff.
Right. Yeah. You get to draft from the loser.
That would be cool. The teams just get better and better and better. By the Super Bowl Sunday, it's these juggernauts.
Right. Every time you win, you get to raid.
Micah Parsons we've got Micah Parsons, the Cowboys. That would like a redraft every week of the best players.
I'd like to see Jair Brown involved, and I would like to see Kyle Juszczyk involved. To me, this guy is a Swiss Army knife of danger that isn't used enough. Christian Juszczyk should not have a bigger week than Kyle Juszczyk in the playoffs, and she did. And God bless her, and what a great husband he is. He's blowing his wife up as much as possible. There's also a lot of financial incentive for him to do that too. She's going to make a lot of money selling designer NFL coats and jackets and things like that. But I just think that Juszczyk is a Swiss Army knife of pain that isn't invoked an awful lot. And he is just the ultimate leak out of the backfield, the wheel route you didn't see coming. Give him a ball on 3rd and 1, just again, to take the beating off McCaffrey or spare Brock the quarterback sneak and all that comes with it. I'd like to see Juszczyk more involved in Jair Brown. Those are my formal requests. Larry, what's yours?
I would like to see more end arounds to Deebo, to Ayuk, and I wouldn't even mind seeing Jordan Mason on an end around. I mean, you're talking about I love the end around. You get all the action going one way, and here comes the guy the other way. It's just, I like that east-west stuff. I mean, you're stretching the field. As a play caller, you're trying to stretch the field north and south. Then you're trying to stretch the field east and west. I'd like to see a little bit, more east and west. I mean, I love Deebo on the end around. I love it. I'd like to see it like 3 times a game. And I'd like to see Ayuk on a reverse. I'd like to see, a little bit more, like the flea flicker or the more east west. A little bit. You got some great. I'd like to see a little bit more running and a little less passing in bad weather, especially in a game where Brock looked a little unsure of himself. Run the hell out of the ball. Your line is a decent pass blocking line. I think if there's a strength, it's a stronger run blocking line. Run the ball more. Forget balance. Run the ball. Run the football. You got a great defense. You got a punter that can pin somebody inside their 20 at will. You've got a bunch of runners. I mean, that's the one thing. Use the talent that you have. If you had a bunch of extra receivers like Green Bay does, then throw it all over the yard because you got all these receivers. What do the Niners have? They got McCaffrey, great runner. Deebo, great runner. Jordan Mason, great runner. Elijah Mitchell, great runner. Run the damn football more. Don't be balanced. Be unbalanced. Run it 60-40. Run the ball, especially in bad weather, especially if Brock looks uncomfortable. Don't get pass happy. Get run happy.
Right. Again, to Kyle, instead of trying to set up the next play, why don't you just stick with the play that's working?
Use your talent. You got a bunch of runners. You said it earlier. Mitchell's fresh, and Mitchell looks good. He's in rhythm right now. For him never to run the ball, run Mitchell. Run. I trust Mitchell. I trust Mason. I trust McCaffrey.
And it's also how you keep guys involved, right? If you're Elijah Mitchell, you wanted to play in that game. You're not Christian McCaffrey. You're not getting 17 touches, but you want a couple. You want a couple, just like the Ravens. They gave Dalvin Cook a couple of carries at the end of that game just to make sure he stays leaned in. New guy on the team. You're involved. We like you. Kyle Shanahan is basically turning around to a couple of guys who are really good and I think can help him on the team and says, I don't fucking trust you. I'm not going to play you.
Well, I don't know if he doesn't trust them, but he just gets so involved in his playbook and his mode that, they get away from it. I mean, if he had ran the ball more as the offensive coordinator in Atlanta, he'd be wearing a Super Bowl ring right now. Run the ball. You got a stable of runners. I mean, how many teams would die right now to have a healthy, fresh Jordan Mason, and he never runs it. Elijah Mitchell is in a great rhythm right now. Run him, run it. You got a bunch of great runners. Run it.
How about this? If you're afraid of just, we're going to send them in there and we don't want them running any play in the book, just design 4 plays for Mitchell, design 4 plays for Mason, and then give each of those guys at least 2 of those 4 plays somewhere in the game, just to keep them in, just to keep them going, just to make sure that they don't get rusty going into the next week, since that rust versus rest concept very much felt like it was rearing its head.
I'll tell you the one other thing I'd love to see, Damon, is in the Super Bowl, that when the Niners last actually won the Super Bowl against the Chargers, years ago, the first touchdown of that game was just this beautiful play where they ran Rice through the middle of the field, and then they ran Waters behind him through the exact same zone. And there was just nobody there because Jerry took everybody with him. Do that same play and substitute Jerry for Ayuk and substitute Waters for McCaffrey. And to me, that you run Ayuk through the middle of a zone, he's going to take those safeties with him. And then you run that same play, but with, that you connected Steve Young to Waters, connect Purdy to a wide open CMC. I'd like to see them use CMC as a receiver a little bit more strategically in the next 2 games.
By the way, I just saw Kojo, old producer over at KNBR. He's
Kojo is in the house.
Anthony Kojikari is hanging out.
Kojo.
He's a big Lions fan. He's a Detroit guy, so he's Lions ready. Hey, you know what?
You're putting the cart before the horse there, Kojo.
You get there, young man. Don't start telling me about Fish's second set until we've made it through the first set. He's a big Fish guy. Okay, so Larry,
you mean he likes salmon and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. He loves
halibut,
flounder. Let's go ahead, Larry. Let's get into these super chats. We certainly appreciate everyone supporting us through super chats. Tip your bartender, and thank you very much. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let's see. We got what, a couple thousand people in the room between the 2 of us. We'd have a couple thousand likes right now. Go. Hit the like.
Seriously,
button.
if everybody could hit like and subscribe, that would be great. And hit that notification bell every time we go live on either channel. You'll be notified. It doesn't cost a penny. We're putting out a lot of content. We're going to continue to put out a lot of content. And hopefully you guys are enjoying that content. We really appreciate every single one of you guys. If you're a fan over on Damon's channel, please like on my channel. If you're a fan on my channel, we got 34,000 or whatever, almost closing in on 35,000. Do me a favor, go check out Damon's channel as well. Like and subscribe over there. Help build him up so he can get to 35,000. Hit that like button, y'all, as Tio just said. All right, here we go. Ready for the supers.
Hit me.
Tristan Russell has become a YouTube member. There we go. Let's give a nice little clap to Tristan Russell.
Golf clap. I mean, Tristan's a tough name to root for, unless, of course, you're a member, in which case you're the best Tristan there is.
There was a guy in the draft last year, in the NBA draft, that I was a big fan of, Tristan Vukovic, I think his name was. Run the ball, Kyle. That's a good one. Drops 20 spot. He says, we did not play a good game, but people can't be asking for the grimy win all year. Finally get it when it mattered the most and still rip the team apart. This is the playoffs, man. Football can get weird very quickly.
Sure can.
Duly noted. Elite Archer 23. Are Mitchell and Mason dead or something?
Look at that. You got the 2 freshest muffins in the muffin basket. You might as well use them.
I would love to ask Kyle Shanahan that question, like on the podium. Hey, Kyle, a quick question: are Mitchell and Mason dead or something?
What time is the wake for Elijah Mitchell, and is it a public viewing? Can we all show up that day?
Are those guys alive still? Could you confirm whether Mitchell and Mason are still alive?
Like, I want a picture of Elijah Mitchell holding up today's San Francisco Chronicle with the date on it for a proof of life photo.
Yeah, seriously. Please, Elijah Mitchell, JP Mason, if you're alive, just give us a sign. Jesse Wade says, are Oliver and Womack really worse than Ambry? I mean, seriously, what does Womack got to do to get on the field? Womack, come on. He was inactive yesterday. I got to question that one too. I mean, seriously, I realize he's young. I realize he's allowed some receptions, but he's been right there when he allows these receptions. You're going up against a Packer team that had like 5 good wideouts, and you didn't activate Samuel Womack. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I gotta question the wisdom of that. I seriously, you don't tell me that you have 53 other guys that are better than Samuel Womack. I'm not buying it. You got.
By the way, let's not confuse a bad night of football with Ambry Thomas being a bad football player.
Ambry's good. He's been the key to the success this year.
Yeah, Larry, I think he's among the most improved players.
He made some good plays too.
Yeah, he's one of the most improved players on this team, and he allowed everyone to sort of find their own level, their own water level in this secondary. But he needs to be better, and cornerbacks have to have short memories. And so wipe it clean, Ambry. See you in the NFC title game.
Seriously. He's a good dude, too. I've talked to him a bunch this year. Goat for Broke says, I have no idea what's wrong with the kids in here trying to place blame on one individual player. Like they don't understand it's a team game. Hey, you know what? It's the chat. It's the chat. You know, the old saying, I always hated it is what it is. I'm going to replace that with it's the chat.
It's the chat. What are you going to do? It's some people are just angry. Some people are just, how about this? Some people are just bored and they're looking to have any interaction with another human because they're not going to go outside and actually like ever meet a person or touch a girl. So they sit in the chat and they try to get everybody all worked up.
It's the chat. I'm using that from now on. Words of wisdom. Guys, a hangover. Never felt so great. Niners. Man, the people were getting it in the parking lot yesterday for the game. Rain nor shine. Bust out the tequila, baby.
Drink yourself warm.
Oh, my goodness. There was a happy group of people walking into that game. Probably a happy group walking out, too. Sean O'Leary. The lack of tackling fundamentals is driving me nuts. Safeties and cornerbacks tossing shoulders into running backs and tight ends, only to have them bounce off and give up 5 more yards. Wrap up. How is this not a point of emphasis for coaches? Yeah, dude, how many times did Aaron Jones have 4 bodies around him and nobody's rapping?
By the way, Aaron Jones just spent a month running all over every NFL team that he saw on his schedule. He had a hell of a month.
But wrap up, man. They got a lot of bodies around him, a lot of hats on him, but don't try to hit everybody. Rap. Or go low and take the guy out low. It's going to be important next round against Montgomery and Gibbs for sure. Cryptic says, I was at the division game. Heart was up and down. It should have been over on that 60-yard run. I've learned that in the playoffs, just have to win. No look back at this game, but the Niners are still in it. Just win, please.
And it's the truth. They're,
survive in advance.
Every single opinion that we've offered, every opinion that you're going to hear about whatever the Niners did or did not do, none of it matters anymore. If the Niners can win ugly the next 2 games and be labeled the least worthy, worst Super Bowl champion ever, the parade still goes straight up Market Street and no one will give a shit. I would rather be the single worst Super Bowl champion ever than the best team to never win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So,
well, or say it this way. How about this? Joe Montana's most famous game and moment involved a game where the offense turned it over 6 times.
Right. The catch was awesome. You know what's also true? Joe Montana played like shit that day. Until
they turned it over. They turned it over 6 times. You got to roll with it. Bottom line is you got to roll with it. You know, who sang it? Some do, some don't, some will, some won't. You know, it's just, you got to roll with it. Jesse Wade, put CMC in Deebo's role, put Mitchell in CMC's role.
I think that would be a good way to go about a depth chart issue when it arises. Yeah. I mean,
that's a great idea, actually. It really is.
Deebo is Probably
Flex
a
out,
better
CMC.
running back. Here's the thing. McCaffrey is probably a better wide receiver than Deebo is.
It's probably true. Maybe better hands. I don't know if he's quite the physical guy, but who knows? Daryl Granville, tough game. I honestly feel like we will improve. I mean, that's what makes me feel so good today, besides the fact that I'll watch my kid play flag football, and I'll watch 2 football games with no pressure and cook some good food and maybe get a little drunk today. I just love the fact that that the Niners probably are going to be, they got that nervous game out of their. It's like an NCAA tournament game. When a good team doesn't play well and wins anyway, that the next game they're going to be better. And that's how I feel about the Niners. I feel really good about going into the next game because they've already kind of had Purdy's had his nervous game. They've had their they didn't look good game. They're kind of due for like a good looking game. And maybe all the talk of, hey, you know what? You need that rest. Maybe some of it was tied to rust. I don't know.
You can't.
They didn't look good. Their rhythm wasn't good.
You can't ask for something, get it, and then complain about it.
Well, it's funny. I had 2 keys to O'Neal that I thought were the biggest keys of the game. I said Green Bay's rolling into this game with tremendous rhythm. 49ers have to interrupt that rhythm right away. And the Niners have to establish their own offensive rhythm after being off for 3 weeks right away. Neither happened, and they still won. I mean, right? Neither happened, and the Niners still found a way to win the game. Did I read that last one from Granville? Tough game. Yeah.
No, it's a Fozzie Bear. Waka waka.
I got that one. KR 4-1. Greenlaw detonated and stuffed Love. 3 takeaways.
He made a huge hit on that play. And look, that might have been a bad spot that the Niners took advantage of, but that's nothing to complain about. Nothing to complain about. But Dre Greenlaw was the best player on the field for the most part, with maybe Deommodore Lenoir and then Jauan Jennings. If we had to rank, our 3 stars of the game, like a hockey team, I think I would rank those 3.
As you know, and anybody who knows me knows this, I'm not a jersey wearer. If I was going to wear a jersey, I would wear one of 2 jerseys. A Dwight Clark throwback, which I love DC. He was a great guy. I golfed with him. He's tremendous. Miss him to this day. Or I'd wear a Greenlaw 57. If I had to wear a jersey of yesteryear, if you could wear one jersey of an ex-Niner and one jersey of a current Niner, in the chat, tell me who you're wearing. I'm going Dwight Clark, Dre Greenlaw. Damon, what are you going with?
So the only Niner jersey that I have in the closet is a Patrick Willis jersey.
P. Willis, class act, man.
Patrick Willis was the first great Niner I got to cover up close. He's an all-timer 49er. And he stood out like a sore thumb in every single game I ever watched him play. He is a holy shit level talent. He's gonna go to the Hall of Fame. The guy's incredible. Current Niner.
We got some good ones in here. Some people are like Kittle, Ronnie Lott.
By the way, so Jillian in a couple weeks is celebrating. She's not thrilled that she's turning 42, as most women aren't, but she looks great. She's the hottest 42-year-old you're ever going to meet, and she's wonderful. And I think for her birthday, I hope she's not listening right now, I'm going to get her a Ronnie Lott jersey. Because I used to tell her, like,
she's 42.
Because 40, I'm like, it's a great jersey number, honey. I always think of ages in terms of jersey numbers. Does it look good on a jersey? No. 42 looks great on a jersey. I think I'm going to get her a Ronnie Lott jersey. By the way, we do have Green Bay Packers fans who live across the street from us who hung a Go Pack Go flag in their front window. Last night, Jillian hand-painted a Go Niners banner, ran over to our neighbor's house, and stuck it on their front door.
I think it's both. I think it's safe to say that we're both in the overachievers club. Overachievers Club.
100%. By the way, if I had to get a modern 49er jersey, it would
Who are you going with?
It would either be Trent Williams or Fred Warner.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad. You Raw B, $4.99. Thank you. Clarence Beeks. I hope Shanahan can do the simple, obvious thing when it matters most. Clarence Beeks. Love you, brother. Geo Kane. I really hate the way we're transitioning into a finesse football team, Larry. We don't play bully ball no more. All Kyle wanted to do is throw all day. Kind of agree with you. Run the effing ball. My Rhino. Without Deebo, maybe use Mitchell again. I'm always puzzled by Kyle. I think the chat where the guy said flex out, use McCaffrey like Deebo and use Mitchell like McCaffrey. That probably is their best game plan if they don't have Deebo. Flav's in the house. Flav, I love the negativity. He says, I've never been 95% positive we were going to lose the entire time and then win. Probably the most unenjoyable game I've ever watched, honestly. 3 heart attacks and 4 underwear changes.
I mean, I think you're speaking for a lot of people, Flav. I mean, that was
hell.
That wasn't fun. That wasn't an enjoyable sporting event right until it was over. And even after that, it was just like we always have Kruk and Kipe mocking just another ha laugher.
Right.
I guess that's what that was.
It was torture. It was true torture. I swore like 75 times. And by the way, you're not supposed to root in the press box or say anything. But when Dre Greenlaw caught that second interception, I'm like, get fucking down. Like, go down. Go down. Like that. I didn't want to yell, but I seriously, I almost lost it.
Did some self-important writers like lean over and look at you over the top of their glasses going like, shame on you, sir. Shame on you.
Excuse me, I make $22,500 for the Reno Gazette. Will you quiet down?
I'm telling you, we got people in the San Francisco media who show up wearing like 49ers starters jackets in the fucking press box. if you're wearing a starters jacket, you might as well be rooting for the team. Like, just come on.
The old gold Niners starter jacket, by the way, is so tight. I mean, that's a good look.
By the way, I did get one of those for Jillian a couple of years ago. I keep her dripping.
That's a good look. That is a good look. Sniper Sal. That's the cool thing on game day. You see a bunch of cool things like that you're people wearing in, and you're like, man, that person looks good. That looks absolutely good. Though, you know what the new one is that's funny? I saw a little kid walking into the game. The kid couldn't have been more than, I would say 4, and he had that oversized chain thing, that the gold chain that looks, but it's plastic or whatever. And they said, but he was like 4.
Yeah.
It was awesome. That's for a 4-year-old, nothing better than a 4-year-old with bling. Sniper Sal, you missed the player of the game on the show last night. Jake Brendel's excellent block at CMC that last touchdown. No, that was not Jake Brendel. That was Colton McKivitz. I watched it 3 times last night. Maybe it might have been a little bit of a combo block, to be honest, but it was McKivitz who buried that guy. I'm going to have Kev cut that, and I'm going to tweet that out later today. Matt,
post-game fashion, what the hell was Kittle wearing last night? Did Kittle at the podium?
Did you see Grant throw me under the bus?
A comic book.
Grant says, hey, George, George, did your wife okay that? And George is like, my wife's got a matching outfit. And all these people were like in the media were like, I like it. I hear all these people in the back of the room. I like it. And he's like, you don't like it, Grant? Grant goes, I like it. Larry doesn't like it. And then George quickly goes, no, you know what? I think Larry does like it. He's like, I'm going to remember that, Grant. There was a lot of happiness in that room last night. Matt _268. Happy belated birthday, Larry. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. January 12th. Flavor _reborn restoration. So the rain did affect portions of the game, but Brock Purdy played ass for 80% of the game. What was Purdy's mental malfunction? Speculate, please. I don't know if it was
ball, unconfident in his footwork, unconfident in the handle that he had on the ball.
rusty.
Guys slipping all over, a little bit of rust. That game, by the way, lots of pressure in it. I don't know. A lot of things went into him not playing well throughout the game. And then in the final drive of the night where he needed to absolutely whip it out and put it on the table, he did.
Dude's a competitor. I mean, I'll say this, that was the great part about Joe was a great competitor. I don't know that you can climb to the top of the mountain. Tom Brady, great competitor. Brock Purdy's a great competitor. He is, but he did not play well. And when he goes and looks at that film, he's gonna feel really not great. But guess what? Who cares? Flush it and go to the next one. Rakib Jumani, great content, guys. Appreciate your hustle. Appreciate you,
Rakib.
We are hustling. It was tough to get up this morning for sure. That alarm clock, we moved this thing to 9, and at 8:15, I'm like, oh my God.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
God.
I'll tell you what we're doing. We're doing the best day after 49er show you're going to get anywhere. That's what we're doing.
The great Tony Salvador sent me a note last night. T-Sal. I got to read it to you. Classic T-Sal.
The fact that Tony even knows how to text is kind of amazing, but
awesome.
Continue.
He sends me a text after the game. Never a doubt. I said, haha, had it all the way. LOL. I love Tony Salvador. Clarence Beeks. Draymond Greenlaw. You know what Kyle calls him? Mike Tyson. Greenlaw does have a little bit of a Mike Tyson look. A younger, obviously Tyson's old and now has a face tat. But a younger Tyson and Greenlaw, they look very similar. Thank you for that. We've got this one from Frank Mello. I heard the Niners were dealing with an illness in the locker room. Any truth to this? And could that be why a few guys were ineffective or not used very much? That is true. And Nick Bosa referenced that on Thursday, saying that there was like kind of a flu or some kind of a bug that was going around the Niner locker room. And he said, I'm kind of glad that it happened now and we get it past us. But maybe there were some guys who were kind of battling there, something that, it wasn't, it was an ugly game. Let's be honest.
When Deebo came out of that blue tent and then we saw him jogging back to the locker room, I thought, hopefully he's just got to go to the bathroom. Maybe he's got the trots. I don't know.
The trots. I haven't heard that since, remember the taxi when Louis De Palma, Danny DeVito says to the guy goes, would you like a piece of my peach cobbler? And my wife made it. And he's like, hey, your wife's peach crap gives me the trots.
I don't have a lot of direct taxi quote memories rolling around up there, but I loved the show. It was a great show.
One of the greatest shows. Nardo.
Judd Hirsch, baby.
I'm more of a Nardo fan myself. Frank Mello says, I heard the Niners were dealing with, oh, no, there we go. Sorry.
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza.
And what was her name? Mary Lou Henner?
Mary Lou Henner.
Oh,
yes.
Dude, she had a 95-mile-an-hour redheaded fastball, man. She was hot for a minute there.
She was in the movie Perfect with Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's right.
If you remember that movie. Flav says, Larry, I love Purdy, but the last 2 big games against Baltimore and Green Bay, his timing and confidence haven't looked good. Hope it was just a wet field and a bad day versus Baltimore. Can you give me a Purdy pep talk? I hear you. I think he played okay against Baltimore. I thought Baltimore had a great plan. I think McDonald really did cloud those zones. I think the answer in those situations is run the ball more. Take the ball out of his hands a little bit. Don't put it all on Brock. Maybe lean on the fact that you have a strong running offensive line and a stable of rested and ready and talented backs, including the best back in the league. How about that? Let's run the ball a little bit and play action pass. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, for crying out loud. How did he do it? Well, they had Jamal Lewis and they had a killer defense. Brock Purdy is should not be asked to carry the Niners. He did. I'll say this though. We talk about all these different factors with the NFL. It all comes down to turnovers. There's only really 8 to 10 possessions in a game anyway. Most you're ever going to get is 12. The Niners were +2 in turnovers.
The Niners.
That's why they won.
The Niners got the 2 picks that the Packers dropped.
Yeah. If the Niners had been -2, they would have lost.
Oh,
well, you can say whatever you want about Brock, but the box score shows no turnovers.
Look at it this way. Even at +2, they still almost lost. So, yeah, they're -2. They're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. James Foster, Drake Jackson, and Farrell injuries are hurting. Hey, is Farrell done for the year? They put him on IR.
He's done for the year.
Cleveland's not
playing another down this season.
Oh man, that's a kick to the gut. And Drake, great dude, but just had that week 1 against Pittsburgh.
Haven't seen him
had the knee injury, and he's a 2024 proposition at this point. Go for broke when the game plan includes Deebo, who, as we know, is a huge factor. When he goes out, do you think it's easy to change the game plan on the fly? No, I don't, clearly. But you got to get more than 3 touches to Brandon Ayuk, especially with no Deebo.
Well, and again, if your game plan was Deebo's going to get 65 touches, you better have a plan B because anyone can get hurt at any time. So yeah. I was surprised to see that it felt like the game plan stalled the minute Deebo went out, and what to do next was hard for Kyle to figure out in a few moments there. And what to do next on a team with this many weapons really shouldn't be an issue.
In a lot of ways, yesterday was the exact repeat of the Cleveland game. Deebo went out in the first quarter in the Cleveland game. The rain came. Brock looked like he struggled with the rain, and the Niners offense looked totally disjointed. Kind of the exact same thing happened last night. Luke Luna, not a super, but he says, Larry, the main thing that scares me about this team is Kyle's arrogance. The way he started the presser last night may cost us on the field, and I love Kyle. He's our coach.
He's stubborn, man. He is stubborn. It feels like sometimes he chooses the harder route in the name of, let me show you how smart I am. But I wouldn't trade him for really any other active coach in football if you wanted to factor in where they are in their coaching cycle, how young they are. He's good. He's really good, but sometimes I do think his tendency to be a little bit too clever kind of gets in his own way. And his quest for perfection and controlling every millisecond of a game, I think gets in his own way a little bit at times. And it certainly got in the way of how they played the end of the first half.
Damon, did you like going to school? Did you enjoy school?
I did. I wasn't a great student, but I enjoyed school. I liked being there every day. I might not have done my homework, but I will participate in this class. I was a hand raiser, not a note taker.
Did you sit in the first row? Did you sit in the back row? I
did. Another thing that I always did was I was sort of up front and center. I wanted to be accounted for.
Do you like taking tests?
I wanted the teacher to feel me in the room.
Did you like taking tests and quizzes?
Not really. That's when it kind of went. Bleh.
Go for Broke is throwing us a pop quiz. Who was the only home team to win a Super Bowl in their actual home stadium?
Was it Tampa?
I think it's the Rams, isn't it? Wasn't it the Rams over the Bengals just 2 years ago? Wasn't that game at SoFi? I think it was Rams over Bengals 2 years ago at SoFi. Go for Broke. We're going to need confirmation. But I'm going Rams over Bengals at SoFi.
I thought it was Tampa winning in a half-empty Randall James Stadium because of COVID.
Against the Raiders? That was in San Diego.
No. Tom Brady Buccaneers.
Over the Chiefs?
I don't know. I smoke a lot of weed. I can't remember where all these Super Bowls get played.
Smoke a lot of weed. Clarence Beeks, Kevin, please help Grandpa Simpson with super chats. Oh, look at that. Look at you.
You need to tie an onion to your belt.
Look at you, Clarence Beeks. I will turn on you. Words of wisdom. Damon and Larry like two old school balcony Muppets. Oh, I love those guys. Those guys who sat in the balcony and just talk trash.
They weren't very good. Oh,
Mortimer
Is it Mortimer? And I used to know their names. Again, weed. Sorry.
Those guys are great. Joshua Goodell.
I'm sorry, but speaking of TV, a guy named Doug Unfunny says Taxi had the best theme ever. The name of that song, I believe, is Angela's Theme. They cut it because they wanted that long tracking shot of the taxi coming across the bridge, and the music fit the long tracking shot perfectly. And a buddy of mine who runs a bar used to, at the end of the night for last call, play the theme from Taxi. And it was amazing. It was like everyone knew, like, okay, it's the end of the night now. Like the first 5 notes of Taxi's theme would come on, and women would be reaching for their purses, and guys would be grabbing their coats. It was like the automatic way to get people out of the bar.
Do you remember when Ignatowski was taking the driver's test?
Yes.
And he's like, and he didn't know the answers. So they said Alex Rieger will go with him and help him. So Alex is standing there, and Ignatowski's taking the test, and he goes, "What does a yellow light mean?" And Alex goes, "Slow down." What does yellow light mean? Slow down. What does
Christopher Lloyd? He was great.
It was just freaking amazing. Joshua Goodell. Watch Brock play all 4 years at Iowa State. He's grown exponentially since. Can't wait to see what he does going forward. Learns from his mistakes and only gets better. Love the show. Go Faithful. Yeah, I don't worry about Brock, but as Flav said, and it's funny too, it's like, I forget who said it this week. It was, I think maybe it was a Kittle. Somebody said, I never worry about Brock. Never worry about Brock. Maybe it was Papa. I might have heard Papa say that this week. I don't worry about Brock either. I really don't. But he didn't look good against Baltimore, obviously. He looked worse last night. But I think he'll bounce back. I really do think he'll bounce back. Go for broke. Pop quiz. In the 7 years that Lynch and Shanahan have been with the 49ers, much has been made about their draft failures. How many of those 58 draft picks are still with the team?
36.
I would say at least 40.
There's a lot of guys on this. Look at it this way. Even the guys that were failures that they selected, a lot of them are still in the league somewhere, right? So,
or even guys that were successful, like DJ Jones. He's now in Denver. McGlinchey. I don't know if you call it successful or not, but he's still in the league. He's with Denver.
Absolutely, he's a successful pick. He's a good player, man. McGlinchey's a good player. He was so good that they couldn't afford him. You know, I mean, well, they decided he's not someone we're going to further invest in. And that was probably the right decision. I think McKivitz has given you the
same performance for a lot cheaper.
It's been a lateral move. I don't think it's a big step forward. I don't think it's a big step backwards. I think they've replaced a player with similar play.
I don't know if I would say it was a great pick. He's a right tackle that they picked with the 9th pick overall. He was all right. And
he was okay. Look, how about this?
Right.
The single biggest swing and miss of the era, right? The single biggest swing and miss of the era feels like Solomon Thomas. And
or Reuben Foster
in the league. How about this for the biggest swing and miss of the era?
How about Trey Lance?
Trey Lance. That's exactly what I was about to say. Trey Lance. And you know what? He's still in the league. So I think that they've done a really, really good job. Or maybe Rodman Sanchez here is bringing up where they may have over-invested.
Rodman Sanchez says $90 million spent on defensive front and no sacks. Yeah, I mean, they got to get more out of their defensive front. They got a lot of big names.
I had a guy in my chat last night, Larry, saying, why don't you rip Chris Kasurik? Did Chris Kasurik get the job done? I mean, I don't know if last night's defensive line failure was a Kasurik issue or just a guys are out there not getting home issue. So,
yeah. Or is it that you're going up against the number 2 pass block win rate offensive line? And guess what? Those guys get paid too. And Green Bay's offensive line is one of the best going right now.
Who was it? Barry, a baller?
That's one of the reasons I liked Green Bay to make this game a game, is like they got a damn good offensive line.
I think it was Bay Area Baller on the post-game show you were hosting last night who brought up the fact that the Packers just did a hell of a job setting the edge and giving Aaron Jones somewhere to go. I mean, they had wide receivers pinning 49er defensive linemen inside as Jones was taking it around. So it was a really well executed game plan for Green Bay, who probably should have won the game, but they didn't.
How about this one? This was another one that I almost lost my S in the press box. Dale says, kick the ball deep on special teams and learn lanes. How about this? Kick it through the back of the end zone. They've got an all-pro return man, and you gave him a chance to return one on you, and he did? Kick it through the back of the end zone. I mean, didn't you draft Jake Moody because he's got a big thunder leg that can kick the ball through the end zone? Kick the ball through the end zone. And you don't have to worry about Keyshawn Nixon. Spider-Man drops a 20 spot. Niners were due a lucky win, as we have been on the other end of it way too many times these past few years, i.e. no quarterback last year against Philly, and Tartt's missed easy interception. Yeah, seriously, that's a great one, Spider-Man. The Niners were due to win a game where they didn't fire their A effort, and it seems like under Shanahan, they have never been able to win any games that they don't fire an A or B effort. This was like their C- effort, and they still got the win against a good team.
They won under the parameter, which they haven't won under. So I guess it's really nice to check that box. By the way, Ike of Ike Sandwiches is in the chat right now. He's watching. He said, such an intense feeling all the way to the end of that game. It was an intense feeling. And I know you're desiring to become an Ike sandwich one day yourself, Larry. Maybe we can turn this show into a sandwich. I don't think Ike offers a breakfast sandwich. And I know people eat breakfast sandwiches throughout the day. Maybe there can be a wake up with Damon and Larry sandwich.
Ooh, what would you want on it?
Well, you need all the usual suspects, right?
Eggs,
bacon. You need some sausage. You want to double down with a little bacon on that. Yeah. No veg.
I make no eggs.
No veg. I said no. I don't want any lettuce or tomato on this breakfast sandwich.
No, we don't want to ruin it. What about sauces?
Little hot sauce. I like a little hot sauce on my breakfast sandwiches myself.
That sounds good. Well, maybe a little ham. Daryl Granville says, not making excuses, but our D-line was held a lot. You know what? What play was that where they showed on the big screen on the scoreboard 2 holding calls? It was a penalty against the Niners, but there were 2 holding calls against the 49ers up front, defensive line. Yeah, I mean, that I saw that. I mean, that was almost inexcusable. I mean, one of those was really bad and blatant.
Greg Olson on the broadcast even said they just showed 2 holds that weren't called on the Jumbotron, and these Niners fans aren't liking it very much.
Oh, yeah. Olson's great, by the way. Blood Moon says this feeling of a strange call. Oh, by the way, Ike's totally right. After the Niners scored, I could no longer sit. I had to stand. I had to literally stand in the defensive sequence at the end. I'm like, I can't sit down. I can't sit down for this. I'm sitting here. I got to stand. I had the binoculars going. I'm standing. I was like, thank God. It was actually, I was really happy. You know how the second row of seats in the press box is like raised way above the first level.
So you're not blocking anyone by standing.
You're not blocking anybody by standing. It was great.
So the only time I've ever been a press box pacer where I caught myself, I'm like, holy shit. I'm not rooting for anyone here tonight to be a professional journalist, blah, 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 blah. But
were you there last night?
No. The only time I ever got up and was literally pacing because I had so much nervous energy were the last 3 outs of Matt Cain's perfect game.
Ground ball to who was the third baseman at the time who took a weird step back? Joaquin Arias, I think. Joaquin Arias took a step back. I gulped. I was like, "Oh my God, is he gonna gag this?" And then he threw a strike to first. But yeah, last night was torture, absolute torture. Not a fun game to watch, but you know what? Remarkably fun to watch on the replay. Blood Moon says, this feeling of a strange calm heading into the NFC Championship, Brock and company needed this grimy game, and yet this calm feeling. Niners are feeling it. The fire turned. What was that? Turned up.
Turned.
Yeah, turned.
Been turned up.
There you go. I love it. Words of wisdom. What jersey? Michael Valencia, my 2-year-old son, Kid has a rifle for an arm and is accurate. No joke. In 20 years, he will be the 49ers starting quarterback.
There you go. On the back of a jersey, we'll see wisdom, and we'll know who it is.
I like that. Getting my Valencia jersey. 2? He's 2?
Oh, wait. Oh, Words of Wisdom's name is Michael Valencia.
Oh, okay. But I mean, he's got a 2-year-old son that's got a rifle?
Get that kid some pads.
I mean, you might want to put that on YouTube right there. You got a 2-year-old doing anything.
2-year-old's just firing darts here, Larry.
Seriously, I saw a kid who couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 taking batting practice with wiffle balls and just ripping shots. And I was like, that kid is going to be awesome. That kid's going to be like Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs and George Brett all rolled into one.
Did you ever, I mean, I know you might say yes to this too, because you're also friends with them like I am. You ever watch Eric Burns's kids hit wiffle balls?
Well, like Burnsy throws hard to his kids, and I follow his kids. I follow him on the IG, and his kids are playing youth ball, and they're in all these travel tournaments, and you can just tell his kid's going to be awesome. His kid's so precocious. His kid's so like ahead of everybody else. He's parking shots, and he just looks awesome. Anonymous Magnus says Jennings equals dog. Like you guys said recently, with the game on the line, real 49er fans wouldn't have second thoughts throwing to third and Jauan. Yeah. You know what Jauan's real name was at birth?
No.
Benny.
Really?
He told the story this week. Guy Haberman asked him about it. He's like, where did Jauan come from? He's like, my dad named me Benny, and my brother said, I don't like that name. I want him to be called Jauan. And then I went with it as well, and I kind of like the name Jauan. So his real name's Benny.
To confuse everyone always.
So now he was Benny Jennings. Now he's Jauan Jennings.
Benny Jennings sounds like the fastest dude on the field, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? He's 4.25. Benny Jennings?
Benny Jennings, dude, he's smoking dudes out there. You can't stop Benny. Maybe
Benny
it's
Jennings
associated with Benny and the Jets, and you just.
Now I named my third child Benjamin, but I never call him Benny. Every time I think of Benny, I think of Benny Hill.
You know what? So we named Jack. Jack is Jack, and Jack's proper name is Jack. It's not John or anything like that. It's Jack Bruce. But we call him, and he calls himself Jackie. And I love it. I love Jackie Robinson, Jackie Gleason, Jackie Martland. Like I'm a big Jackie guy. I like it.
By high school, he's going to be known as JB.
Probably.
JB. What's up, JB?
Well, his middle name is Thomas, so it might go JT.
JT. Black Pill Phil. The fourth quarter comeback will have a positive ripple effect for the team. Now that this team has seen Brock do it, it will inject more confidence. I don't think they didn't believe in Brock. I think it's a little bit more about Shanahan. I mean, who do you think gets more out of yesterday? Brock or Shanahan? I think it's more Shanahan, to be honest, because Shanahan was the one that was 0-30. Brock's, I think Brock is kind of thought of as clutch, and I think he's played big in big moments. I think Shanahan needed that one in some ways.
Well, I also think Shanahan needs to get a little religion as to what he should have done, and maybe think, how can I be better at the end of halves? How can I stick to a easier to win with game plan, like just run the ball when it's a one possession game? I mean, he was asking Brock to do an awful lot on a night where Brock was not on it. And I hope he learns that. I hope that's the lesson he takes away.
Old Dirty Hungus says game recognized game. Green Bay came in hot. Luckily, our fucking around wasn't following. We'd be finding out. Or we'd buy. Wait. Am I not reading here? Game recognizes game. GB came in hot. Luckily, our effing around wasn't following. We'd be finding out. Let's effing go. Whatever. It's good stuff. It's cute baby in that picture.
That is cute, baby. Old Dirty Hungus. Thank you, buddy.
There you go. Holland Tracy in the house. I think Greenlaw is a necessary evil. The good definitely outweighs the bad, and he gives our team an edge, and no other player can give us. I don't know if there is too much bad, other than he didn't get down. The guy's a bad A. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the game. I wouldn't trade that guy for anything. By the way, you know who's on the sideline last night? Azeez Al-Shaair.
You're probably missing home right now, right?
Seriously. Azeez is a great guy. Once saved his family from a kitchen fire in his house. Saved his entire family.
How much longer are we going here, Larry?
Why you got a potty break?
I got a potty. You want to go full screen for a minute? You deal with the supers, and then I'll come back and we'll wrap things up.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'll be right back. This carafe of coffee kicked my ass today.
There you go. No problem. How great would it be to have Azeez back? He's a free agent this offseason. He's going to get paid. He's not coming back, but man, I wish. A man can dream. Chef Craig's 360 debunk that the NFL scripts the games. Conspiracy trash, right? Teresa and I love this show. Well, thank you to Teresa. Thank you to you, Chef Craig's. The NFL, it's not scripted. It's not scripted. Not scripted. Don't even think it. Christopher Walker. If Kyle can't win the Super Bowl with this team, I say move on. More of a fan of coaches that were not born into it and handed the first opportunity because of daddy. I mean, come on. You know how many second generation coaches there are? I mean, Bobby Slowick's dad's a coach. All these guys who are Kubiaks. They're all Gary's kids. Belichick's kids are in the business. It's oftentimes passed down. But you got to make your own hay. I mean, Mike Shanahan may have helped Kyle Shanahan get started, but Kyle Shanahan's his own man and has to stand on his own 2 feet. I'm not as big of, I don't take an issue with that as much. We've got KR. He says, no sacks, but Bosa forced that Love interception. Yeah. Nick Bosa had five hits on the quarterback. So the Niners only got, I think, 6 total hits on the QB. Let me double check that. Niners had 6 QB hits, 5 for Bosa, 1 for Kinlaw. That's my point. Somebody not named Bosa hit the freaking quarterback. Please. The Niners are going to need that in a big way. Pib Ford says, hey, here's $4.99.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pib. Flav in the house again. He says, Larry, you put my last post up and then talked about the trots and moved on. It's okay, though. Is there anything you guys have seen from Purdy versus Baltimore or Green Bay that you're really concerned about?
No.
Well, yeah, I would say I didn't like what he had on the ball yesterday. He didn't have anything on the ball.
I think it was because of the weather. I think
it probably was. But it's funny. There was a lot of people that complained about camp interceptions. He threw a number of interceptions this summer in camp, and if there was a common denominator in those interceptions, is that the ball kind of was loopy in the middle of the field. Loopy passes in the middle of the field. You're playing, you're tempting the fate. You're tempting the football gods. And he had 3 or 4 loopy passes in the middle of the field. But man, that throw to Conley was beautiful.
The throw to Kittle off schedule was the touchdown to Kittle was just perfect.
Yeah. I'd like to see Brock, a little bit more zip on the pass. I'd like to see Brock, his footwork be a whole lot better than it was against Green Bay. And I'd like to see Shanahan not lean on Brock so much. I also feel more comfortable with Brock throwing outside than I do throwing inside. And he seemed like those interceptions were inside passes against Baltimore. Some of the mistakes he's made. You think about the Cincinnati game, they're inside. I'd like to see him be a little bit more circumspect inside. I still want to see him let it rip, but I want to see a little bit more juice on some of those inside passes. And I thought the footwork yesterday was really poor. And I'm eager to see what Shanahan and what Purdy says about the footwork later this week, because it seemed to me that he would get to the top of the drop and then his feet seemed locked. And I never like to see that. I like to see them moving a little bit more.
The thing with Brock, I mean, his defining feature as a quarterback is accuracy and ball placement. His accuracy and ball placement were all over the place.
Yeah, it was bad yesterday. It was the most inaccurate we've seen him. He was high, he was low, he was in, he was out. It wasn't his night. It wasn't his night, which also kind of makes me really excited about what's ahead, because he's going to bounce back.
Right. Get it out of the way. Get it out. Just get it out. Get it out of you. Get it out of you.
I mean, they say the hardest thing to do in sports is to win the Triple Crown in horse racing. Why is that? Because you have 3 different tracks in over the course of 5 weeks with the long, and every time you're going up against new horses, and so there's all kinds of different things.
Right. 3 different endurance tests, 3 different distances.
Yeah. And also if you know your tracks, like the dirt, like Churchill Downs is quite a bit different than Pimlico, which has tight turns. And then you get to Belmont, and it's just this huge, massive track, and it's the longest race, and you need to and you're doing it over 5 weeks. And every time there's a new race, there's horses that didn't run in the first race that enter into that next race. So you're going up against fresh horses, different distances, optical illusions, crowds, 5 weeks, the whole deal. Well, the NFL playoffs is a lot of the similar thing. It's like, if you're going to be the champion, you've got to, there's a very distinct deal. The first time you're going to have to deal with a layoff against sometimes teams that really had that edge all the way through. So that's kind of what they faced in Green Bay. Green Bay was almost like in a playoff mode for the last month, where the Niners had 20 days off. And then you have to, sometimes then the next week, you've got a different test. And then the Super Bowl, you're taking on a different test. I don't know. I expect the 49ers to play much better next week, whether it's Tampa or Detroit. And hopefully the weather won't be a factor. The one thing is, if they can get that next game at home, we know that weather will be not a factor in the Super Bowl. And the one thing I really love about the 49ers going against the Ravens is when you have the better team and the better weapons, I think offensively, like the Niners do, and you get on a faster surface, I think that favors you. I really do.
I think the Ravens, though, have proven an awful lot of, you don't want this. Even if you think you can beat this, you might not want this, because they got a know-how coach, and they got special teams that usually doesn't fail them, although the only touchdown they gave up was a special teams touchdown.
But they also are great at home, and they won't be at home. They beat the Niners here, but they're particularly good at home.
One of the things that I got wrong yesterday in terms of, so I'm watching this first game, how might this game apply to the next game? I really thought, all right, maybe there was a little rust here on the Baltimore Ravens. And then at halftime, it's like they just came out as the Baltimore Ravens after not being the Baltimore Ravens in the first half, and they just put it on the Texans hard.
Yeah,
I thought that the 49ers are going to do that after a very back and forth, unimpressive, get the rust off you, get the let out first half, that they were going to come back and score immediately on that opening drive of the third quarter and pin their ears back and cover the spread. Like, I thought that was going to be the echo between the two games. Little underperformance early, a lot of overperformance late. The Niners forgot to do their overperformance late. They did. They did not have the robust second half that the Ravens did. I thought
the Texans potentially could pull the upset there, but didn't happen.
Yeah, we both kind of picked Houston in that game. We did. So we were wrong about that, and I think we both covered. We picked the Niners to cover. We were wrong about that. It doesn't matter what we're right or wrong about, as long as at the end of a game, you won it. We are way beyond the beauty pageant portion contest, the swimsuit portion contest. It is better to win ugly than lose pretty right now. Sometimes in certainly a baseball season, it's not just whether you're winning or losing, it's how you're playing. Football, less than that, because there's such a limited number of games. But this is no longer how you're playing. This is, did you win? And that's it. That's the only question that matters right now. Did you win? If the answer is yes, you had a great fucking football game. So the Niners, even though they didn't play well, great game, great playoff game. They won it. Congratulations. Go get the next one, and you're in the Super Bowl. 60 minutes away from the Super Bowl. And we're about a half an hour away, Larry.
15 minutes away from kickoff of the next game. So we'll hurry through here. Pib Ford, $1.99. Thank you, Pib. Go for Broke says, I know they didn't check the chat for the answers. I was hoping you would throw them in the super side because I'm over here on the super side. Go for Broke.
I don't know what are the answers.
Wait a second. Hold on. Wish I could just check Go for Broke. See what happens. See what happens here.
How about this? If you're still watching Go for Broke, type them in right now. I'm at the bottom of the chat. I'll see them immediately.
Yeah, let me see. Go for Broke. Come on. Go for Broke. There's probably a way to check here. Okay, I can't do it.
Doesn't really
All right, here we go. Holland Tracy says, I had a conversation with Matt Cain about how nervous I was during his perfect game at Lowe's, about as genuine of a guy as you'll ever meet. Yeah, Matt Cain's a good dude. Good dude. Very good dude. I did the very first interview ever with Matt Cain in the Bay Area because I was on the radio that day when he got drafted. He was a high school kid. The Giants drafted him out of high school. And I forget who it was with me, but we did an interview with Matt Cain. And he was always a nice guy, even back as a young high school kid. JFig 909ers. Will this silence the Purdy haters on the final game-winning drive? I wonder what the next excuse it will be. CMC was clutch, fire. Yeah, they'll always be haters. What's the old? What's the rapper that Robert Saleh quoted earlier? Rico, whatever. He's like, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping.
There's that. Look at it this way. I'm really looking forward to the Amy Trask or whoever offers it up. There are 4 quarterbacks remaining. Well, really, 3 quarterbacks and Brock Purdy.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be the next. That'll be tomorrow's show.
Right. Supposedly, Shannon Sharp's already gotten into the ripping. So there you go. Josh Dowling. It's so tired at this point. Josh Dowling, the whole 0-30 went down 5 in the fourth is BS. 2 years ago in Green Bay, we were down 7, then a blocked punt to tie the game. So I don't know where they get those numbers, but they're wrong. But that was in the fourth. This is going to the fourth.
And I don't believe that any of those numbers include postseason play. That's a regular season statistic. So to apply a postseason win to it, I think is where that falls apart there.
Well, so then in other words, he still hasn't done it because yesterday. Yeah. Pib Ford says, here we go. I kind of want the Bills, not the Ravens. Hashtag San Francisco. I could see Bills. I could see see Chiefs. Jimmy Kwan, San Francisco.
There's nothing but a headache coming out of the AFC. The Super Bowl's not assured to anybody.
Oh, I know. It's going to be tough. Jimmy Kwan says San Francisco versus Green Bay was literally Kyle versus Kyle. They know each other like Shanny and McVay. Difference was the players. Go Damon. Banging moms. LOL.
Thank you. Deebo, hopefully he's back banging moms next week.
Christopher Walker. Do you like being associated with the phrase banging moms?
Hey, if it didn't bother Pat Burrell, why should it be bothering me?
Yeah, there you go. Do you know who I am? Christopher Walker. If Kyle Shanahan's arrogance cost the 49ers like with the Falcons and the 49ers already, I say move on. He's very smart, but I said, in my opinion, first win in the fourth quarter when down by 5. Move on. It's easy to say move on, but I would counter that with move on to who?
How about this? Unless you're bringing in Bill Belichick, I don't like it.
Go for Broke says he just reposted. Did you see him? Wait, here we go. I think I see Go for Broke. Here we go. Thank you, Go for Broke. He says, Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020 at Raymond James Stadium. The Rams also won a Super Bowl at their home stadium, but since it was an odd year, 2021, and being an NFC team, they were designated the away team.
Okay. Still their stadium. But okay, so Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I look at it this way. Larry, technically we both got that right because we both said, you said Rams, I said Buccaneers. Go for Broke also said of the 24 players no longer with the team, 4 of them are starters. 13 of them are backups. 2 are retired. 5 players didn't make it at all. 5 out of 58. Pretty good. So 5 failures of the 58 draft picks of the Lynch-Shanahan era.
Yeah, Lynch has hit a high. I mean, especially if you compare it to what Balky's hit rate was prior to Lynch's tenure.
Hey, now, that's unnecessary.
Trent did not hit at a very high clip. I'll tell you that, Lowry.
Let's see. Just reposted them? Okay, now we got this one from Mike Baker, just recovering from a near heart attack yesterday. I know. Oh my God, I know. Oh my God, I aged a lot yesterday. Jason Lutz. So Brock's clutch. We still haven't seen him win on a full moon with one shoe untied in a primetime game with 50-mile-an-hour winds. I'm not convinced until we see it. You know what kills me is there were so many people that were like didn't believe in Brock earlier this year, and now some of those people are out there like trying to be like, busting other people for not believing in Brock. Dude, you didn't believe in him like 4 weeks ago, and now you're busting other people for not believing.
Anyone you'd like to name in particular, Larry?
No, I don't want to start a content creator war, but it is a Niner content creator, and it's a Niner content creator on the other side of the country. And it's not Jesse. I think that's going to do it. What is this one? Chris Barber, not a super, but he says Niners are going to smoke whomever we play next week. Definitely going to play better. All right, Damon, who do you got today? It is 8 minutes away from kickoff. Bucks Lions in Detroit. Man, I hope the Bucks pack their warm gear because it is cold in Detroit. Oh, it's a dome. I'm going to take this is how I'm betting today's games. I'm taking the Lions minus the 6.5. I love it. And in the evening game, I'm taking the under, but I'm teasing it. So I'm going to go Chiefs plus 10.5 because it's Chiefs plus 3. And then I'm going to tease it up to 53 and go under. So I'm going to go Chiefs plus 10.5 under 53 on the tease tonight. And I'm going Lions straight bet minus 6.5. Who do you like today and tonight?
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
I'm taking them in the early game, and I think the Chiefs get it done in Buffalo in the late game.
You're taking Lions.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Lions early, Chiefs late.
Crazy boo-boo chicken. I love this show. You're so cute, crazy boo-boo chicken. Yeah, where'd you get that name? I was thinking about using that name, but my mom called me Ralph, and I went with it. I like a meat cheese. I like extra garlic. I've always told them I like extra garlic. I'm the guy who goes to the game. I get the garlic fries. I put them in a paper bag. I bring them back to the studio. Tom always complains, and Krug doesn't like it because his show starts after, and the entire studio smells of garlic. But come on, Krug gets so angry. Why do you get so angry at the Giants, Krug?
Well, it was just to come into a studio after Tom was in there. Once we removed the pillow and the blanket, it would smell an awful lot like chewing tobacco.
Lowry, I'll tell you one thing. John Lynch may have a better percentage than I have, but I'll tell you one thing. I get to go to dinner with Trevor Lawrence, and he's a very attractive man.
Got great hair. There's no doubt. He should be doing more Pert Plus commercials. Larry, it was a heck of an evening that the 49ers figured out how to survive. They won it when the chips were down, and they're hosting the NFC title game, and we'll know who it's against by the time we are on the air, which is less than 24 hours from right now. Wake up, Damon and Larry, Monday, 8 a.m. It's the best morning show you're going to find around the 49ers anywhere, and you can find it right back here where you're watching right now. So
Damon and Lowry, enjoy your Sunday, man. Enjoy that Sunday on the couch, and maybe tilt one back for good old Trent Baalke.